gentlemen, if there's a bellwether, if there's a gauge that you can stick a fork in the anti-American globalist system, it's Kanye West going to Trump Tower this morning and basically endorsing and embracing Donald Trump. You can't get more pop. You can't get more shallow. That signifies that they understand that basically the entire country is turning against the globalist. Hillary would get 300 people on average, Trump 20,000 on average, with tens of thousands turned back because of the bottlenecks via security, which had to be done. So this just shows you how much the power structure is completely and totally panicking. And that's why we're witnessing the Central Intelligence Agency, completely rogue elements of it. And I have the proof coming up in the next segment, saying that they want to contact and meet with all of the electors and have them forfeit their votes that they represent, that they've pledged for voters, and thus give them to Hillary. And the word is maybe just seat her as the 45th president or have a new election. That, of course, will plunge the country into a civil emergency, a national emergency, probably a civil war. But I was sitting back this morning watching the narrative of this rogue secret group and the secret report from the CIA unravel very, very quickly. And I was thinking about how many facets there were to this. So I'm going to come back after the break and try to line it all up, unlike anybody else has done. Everybody's doing a piece here, a piece there. And quite frankly, looking at what folks are saying and reporting and documenting the hypocrisy, there were a lot of points I didn't think of. Like when they were accusing Trump of winning the election via foreign influence, I mentioned the communist Chinese openly giving illegal contributions publicly and openly saying we couldn't have Trump, and the Saudi Arabians almost matching the hundreds of millions the communist Chinese gave, and the Pope wading in and telling Catholics to vote against Trump, and all these other foreign governments in the EU. But I missed, until I saw comments last night on INFOWARS.com, the most important point. Millions of illegals in this country, with the Democrats in at least 7 states, 14 states have passed laws where there's no ID, but 7 states telling illegals to go vote. We can show you the article, show you the news clip, show you the pundits saying it on the news, but then they say it doesn't exist. And it's racist if you want IDs. Talk about foreign influence, bringing foreigners in to vote. Imagine if there were 20 million, 30 million Russians here, and the Republicans were saying, vote for Trump. It'd be the end of the world, and it should be. But if it's Nicaraguans, Venezuelans, Mexicans, Chinese, you name it, then it's okay. And a lot of Eastern Europeans vote liberal as well. A lot of illegal folks from Ukraine, from Poland that are here in the U.S., and they massively vote Democrat, even though their parents fled the Soviet Union. But I've looked at the demographics, so you talk about foreign meddling, but it turns out this particular CIA story, as I told you over the weekend, is totally false. Now it's unraveled completely. And after the break, we're going to break it down. I'm going to recap what I just said and get to all the new information straight ahead on the other side. I'm Alex Jones. This is the InfoWar. They're doing everything they can with Google filters and Apple filters and Reddit filters and others to censor Infowars.com. Let's beat them. Help spread that link to the 4 winds. Jam it down their throat. This is a war. It's an info war. Let's hit them hard, and never let up. Let's stomp them into the ground. Ladies and gentlemen, it is Tuesday, the 13th day of December, 2016. I'm your host, Alex Jones. I'll be hosting today. Paul Watson will be co-hosting coming up at the bottom of the next hour. And then, of course, we have Leanne McAdoo hosting the 4th hour with Owen Schroyer. Thank you so much for joining us. Roger Stone pops in at the start of the next hour with big breaking news and analysis as he just left Trump Tower last night and flew back to Florida. Wow, where to start, as I always say. Man. I have really studied U.S. history. I've studied world history. It's so interesting. I have never seen more open, brazen, naked attempts by intelligence agencies and a party that has been voted out of office. I've never seen such brazen attempts at a soft coup. I've seen militaries take over presidential palaces or overthrow governments. Coups are something that happens basically on a monthly basis around the world. But to see this modern 21st century attempt at a media coup by a president who only has 37 days left in office and rogue elements of a discredited, bloated intelligence agency is simply incredible. Now, the good news is they started pushing this whole Russia's controlling the narrative, Russia's controlling the election a year ago, and no one ever bought it. And it's been discredited along the line. And we have conflicting statements from Clapper, the head of the CIA, and others that we're going to go over here in a moment. But here's the basic boil down. It's the communist Chinese that gave over $300 million to super PACs and the Clinton campaign, and it was all completely illegal. But they did it through U.S. subsidiaries, so the controlled Justice Department stood down and allowed it to take place. The corruption is just naked, out in the open. Brazen, unapologetic. Saudi Arabia has almost matched the amount of illegal contributions. You can just search engine. Saudi Arabia has made massive contributions to the Democrats and to Hillary, meddling in our internal affairs. Then we have the millions of illegals in this country, with the Democrats catering to them to vote illegally. Zero Hedge breaks down the numbers where Saudi Arabia has funded 20% of Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign. Saudi Crown Prince claims publicly. You have to understand, China brags that they're funding both political parties, but particularly the Democrats. Communist China lectures us in our newspapers that we better, quote, control your new independent media. You better shut down the alt-right. That was 2 weeks ago in the Wall Street Journal. The Chinese president lectures the American people. The Chinese president brags that they're controlling our elections. The Pope tells Catholics to vote against Trump and says it's a sin to support him, and says shut down the alternative media or it's like having sexual pleasure out of eating feces. You cannot make this up. If you're a new listener and just tuned in, I'm telling you, I'm quoting word for word what they say. Truth is stranger than fiction. China admits, even the Washington Post admits, even Hollywood Reporter admits, has already bought up most of Hollywood and now is about to get controlling shares in all 6 production houses. Globalism is wide open world corporate government. The EU last Monday gave U.S. tech giants 24 hours to start censoring a giant list of what they called fake news. InfoWars and Drudge are on the list, and guess what? Now it's hard to share links on Facebook and Reddit, you name it, of InfoWars.com. It's happening. And they write mainstream news articles saying Alex Jones is fake news. He says he's being censored as Google Chrome blocks us and calls us fake news, as Reddit shadow bans us, as the same thing happens with Breitbart, and they get their apps that they've had for years kicked off. And they respond and say, nothing's happening. This is incredible. Hillary names us by name and says she wants the alt-right shut down once she gets elected. She loses, even though she tried to steal it, and now they're still moving forward and even saying ban Donald Trump from Twitter. The Washington Post didn't just say that a week ago. Yesterday, they called for seizing Trump Tower, saying they shouldn't have to pay for the security. They're at all-out war with the American people. And the CIA, here's the coup de grace. The CIA, totally discredited. Its job is overthrowing countries. Its job is lying, doing dirty tricks, under orders from Obama and the whole Soros combine, comes out and says yesterday, led by Nancy Pelosi's daughter, this is in the San Francisco Chronicle, the New York Post, you name it, they come out and they openly say that they've lined up a whole bunch of electors. It was 2 a week ago. Pelosi has 10 alone. And reportedly, they're going to try to get more than 50 and try to reverse it. And we won't know until January 6th because they send their votes in on the 19th. They've got to be there by the 6th. They then get counted, and then the numbers get released. And I guess if there's a battle, it'll be a debate in Congress for the first time in modern history. And then we could see Trump unseated, and they're now admitting that's their goal. Hillary had Podesta come out from under a rock yesterday and call for a new election and say they're supporting having the CIA, quote, brief the electors. A rogue splinter element of the CIA that's not supposed to operate domestically in America is saying, and now it's being announced that Obama is going to authorize the CIA to visit all of the electors and basically lean on them like the mafia gets caught leaning on grand juries and juries to ignore the vote, ignore their pledge that they signed, and to deep six Donald Trump. This is total sedition. This is the foreign meddling. And this is the Democratic Party that doesn't want to leave office, holding on by their fingernails with 37 days left, and George Soros doubling the funding that he did in the previous year the day after Hillary lost. And Kellogg's and 100+ other big, Miller Brewing, you name it, all the globalists, all the usual suspects gave hundreds of millions more, millions per company, the week after the election to Black Lives Matter and the communist groups and all the violent destabilization, cop killer organizations. This is a foreign globalist takeover, just like the globalists destabilized the Middle East and Africa using Islamicists, just like they used right-wing versus left-wing Christian Orthodox versus Catholic Christians in Ukraine. They are dividing us, and they're hyping up the race war. And here's the bottom line. I know for a fact Kanye West has been trying to break away from the Kardashians for a while. He knows about the Illuminati. He went to some of the spirit cooking events that were public. And the word is Kanye West is having a freak out. He was forcibly grabbed and kept in a mental institution for almost 2 weeks when he calmly said he's supporting Trump now and would have voted for him if he voted, and the people should stop bashing Trump supporters and we should all come together. He didn't fight anybody, nothing happened, and his managers grabbed him and threw him with the police into the back of a paddy wagon to a mental institution, but they were unable to break him while he was in there for 13 days, and he came out and he said, I'm divorcing Kim Kardashian and I'm done. And this whole thing's the Illuminati. What do you make of that? And he goes to visit Donald Trump. That guy's been at the parties in New York, folks, and I guarantee you he doesn't like it. John Lennon went to some of these parties, and his last songs before they killed him were about Satanism in New York. Those are not very popular songs. Hardly anybody's ever heard them. I didn't even know they existed until I was sent a CD by listeners. And then when I talked to the family, I'm going to stop right there. They said, oh, yeah, that's what's going on. And they told me, I'm just going to go ahead and say it, but I can't say what they told me. Incredible stuff. That was like 6 years ago. So you have to understand, ladies and gentlemen, that John Lennon didn't want to be part of this. He came out against the world government. He said there's a plan to depopulate the earth. It's all made up. Remember that? I could play the clip. And it looks like Kanye West is waking up. And I always said, as this house of cards starts to fall, there's going to be people we didn't think were our friends that become our friends. People we thought were our friends are going to turn against us. But here is the intel now blowing up. They said a year ago the CIA said Russians were involved. They said it 6 months ago. They said it 4 months ago at the RNC event in Cleveland. Then they said it 5 weeks ago on the eve of the election. And always it came out it wasn't true. Then 2 weeks ago, they said the alt-right, listing Infowars.com and DrudgeReport.com and Breitbart.com, listing us as the three they want to take down first. Then nobody's safe. We're skip this break. They said they want to shut us down. And the EU said shut us down. And the Washington Post last Wednesday had to admit that was all made up with no proof, and it was a fake list, and had to retract it, saying we weren't Russian agents because their lawyers told them suits are being filed, you're going to lose. So they said, okay, we have no proof, we're sorry, it's fake. They said it's fake. 2 days later, they come out, Bezos-run, Obama-run paper, worse than the New York Times, nothing worse. Comes out, this fake news pariah, and says that the CIA and 16 other agencies unanimously say it's a fraud. And then, ladies and gentlemen, within 2 days of the lie, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence that runs all 17 agencies, the, quote, biggest intelligence agency, the Fusion Center, comes out and says there's no proof. It's very, very thin. You can't show intent. This is crazy. It's the Chinese that are bombarding us. And even though press secretary slipped up yesterday in a press briefing and said it's the Chinese that are hacking. Folks, they had bots hitting us. Hillary hired hundreds of millions in bots and fake posters. And again, the illegals voting and all the foreign money. They turn everything around and blame the Russians. RT is big globally because our media is so discredited, but RT America has almost unreadable ratings. They're only in some hotels. I mean, I would go on RT America and have no response. RT's effect on this country is barely even, you can't even gauge it. It's big in Europe, though. It's on broadcast TV in Europe. There's broadcast TV in London it's on. It's big in Europe, but RT America is just like a baby. It's like an oak tree, is 20 feet tall, and has a big canopy, and there's some 2-inch tall little sproutling. That's RT America. This claim is just bull. America defeated the globalists. America repudiated the Democrats and the Bushes and the whole old guard of the Republican establishment that tried to steal the nomination. And they're upset that we won. And then on top of it, the Russians hacked us. Why? Because Hillary had an illegal server and lied to everybody, and they're all sharing data with everybody, and she got $35 million from them in a uranium deal. They got a lot of nerve, folks. And now they've got the CIA involved in the middle of our election. Top U.S. spy agency refuses to endorse CIA's Russian hacking assessment due to lack of evidence. That's up on INFOWARS.com right now. That's all over the news. They can't stand the fact that this is happening. Flashback, INFOWARS.com, Kit Daniels from the New York Times. Feds admit no Russian cyber attacks targeting election. That was just a few weeks before the election. Go read the New York Times article all about it. And that was, again, republished. They admitted it again on November 26th of this year, just less than a month ago. Boom! They said it before the election, and they said it after. Less than a month ago, Clapper said this did not happen. But the order came down to give him some rogue briefing group, just like the Office of Special Plans at the Pentagon in 2002 that lied about the WMDs bipartisanly. If you can't get the main CIA to lie, just create a new little special office of somebody that'll lie. Like Colin Powell holding up the anthrax vial. Meanwhile, White House claims China hacked election, calls Bolton conspiracy theorist. We're going to play that after the break. But first, Keith Olbermann, out of a job because of lack of ratings, has crawled out from under a rock, the arrogant Keith Olbermann. And he has launched this new thing called The Resistance, trying to rip us off, obviously. I love how they point out, you're not the resistance now, you're the establishment that Trump's in. No, we're trying to get Trump in. We're trying to remove all you've done. You've got foreign powers, the globalists, the Federal Reserve, the Republican establishment, Democratic establishment, the entire mainstream media, all against the liberty movement, all against Brexit, all against what's happening, against your tyranny. And so you're desperately trying to keep us from putting the republic back in, where the rule of law and prosperity and private property is the establishment, where free will is the establishment. I don't want to be the establishment on red carpets and flying around in helicopters on power trips. I want to be able to live my life and raise my children as I see fit, as long as I don't hurt anybody. That's true liberalism. You're control freaks that want to dominate language, you name it. that are race pimping. So Oberman does this whole fake teleprompter read. You can tell he's reading a teleprompter that he scripted. And he does it in a low-tech looking environment to sound like he's grassroots. And he flips out. We're going to analyze this piece here. And basically calls for war with Russia and says America's under attack. America's under attack by the consortium of globalists, the EU, the Pope, the Communist Chinese president, the Saudi Arabians, who all bragged that they financed Hillary illegally. That's the foreign powers, the illegals coming in, the government opening the borders to do it. America's under foreign attack, and it's not by the Russians. Americans woke up of all race, colors, and creeds. We came together. We want change. And Trump's starting to deliver it with jobs. He's getting the top corporate people that know how to get it done. He's co-opting the establishment. He's scaring the living hell out of them to the point they've got the CIA rising up against the American people, illegally lying to you about who was involved in the election. The American people kicked the butt of the bloodthirsty, communist, murdering Chinese. The American people kicked the butt of the bloodthirsty, oppressive, slimy house of sod royal turds. We kicked the EU's slimy, socialist, globalist butt. We kicked the Democrats' butt. We kicked the Republican establishment's butt. The sleeping giant is rising. Keith Olbermann. Now let's play this slimy establishment rat who's so upset you're struggling out of his boa constrictor grip. Here he is, warmongering and spewing McCarthyism crap.
We are at war with Russia. Or perhaps more correctly, we have lost a war with Russia without a battle. We are no longer a sovereign nation. We are no longer a democracy. We are no longer...
Back it up. This is just too gold. We're at war with the globalists who admit they're establishing a corporate world government that's tax exempt, that admits it wants to destroy the family and private property and even single family dwellings because, quote, we need to make you be under surveillance and accept the community. You're on TV on MSNBC, your own channel, Oberman, saying the family's old, we've got to get rid of it. You're in the cult, bro. You're the threat to America. You are who we're at war with, you traitorous little rat. Woo! What a piece of filth. This is war. You bet it's war. And it's the American people against you, you globalist outlier. Let's go back to him.
We are at war with Russia.
We're at war with you.
Or perhaps more correctly, we have lost a war with Russia without a battle.
No, you're losing the war with us.
We are no longer a sovereign nation. We are no longer a democracy. We are no longer
Back it up.
People.
We're no longer a sovereign nation under globalism, under New World Order, getting rid of our borders, transferring our power to TPP. Obama 2 months ago telling the UN we're getting rid of U.S. sovereignty. We're restoring our republic. We are going to be a sovereign nation again, dirtbag. We're going to bring our jobs back. We're going to restore the Second Amendment, dirtbag. We're going to restore the borders, traitor, enemy, bloodsucker, parasite, arrogant, pseudo-intellectual know-it-all with your pseudo-intellectual hair and your pseudo-intellectual glasses and your pseudo-intellectual little chicken neck that thinks it's better than me and my family and others that built this damn thing. We're gonna metaphorically stomp your ass into the ground, you little communist piece of trash. Now go back to that piece of scum.
We are at war with Russia. Or perhaps more correctly, we have lost a war with Russia without a battle.
With you.
No longer a democracy. We are no longer a free people. We are the victims of a bloodless coup. So far,
no, we're no longer your victims. Back it up again. Back that traitor up again. From the start, all of its lies. Everything he's saying is about him. Every single bit of it. And he knows it. He hates you. He thinks he's better than you. He calls you flyover country, bitter clingers. He looks down his nose at you. His religion is hating America. We have the WikiLeaks on all of them. These people are scum who are intimidated by us because they know we're better than them. But we don't have a thirst for power like these vampires do, but we're gonna now stand up against you. Let's go out to break with this piece of filth.
We are at war with Russia. Or perhaps more correctly, we have lost a war with Russia without a battle. We are no longer a sovereign nation. We are no longer a democracy. We are no longer a free people. We are the victims of a bloodless coup. So far, a bloodless coup engineered by Russia with, at best, the traitorous indifference of the Republican Party and Donald John Trump, a man who, to borrow a phrase from another December long ago, will live in infamy.
Let's go back.
In 5 weeks' time, unless desperate measures are taken.
Back him up again. Desperate measures. They are involved in desperate measures. They're losing America. This is a coup against the globalists. That's why they're so desperate. This is real. I'm telling you, Obama may set off a nuke. I told you they're never going to let him get in office without a fight. They may set off a nuke, anything. False flags, folks. The next 30-plus days is the most critical in our lives. Oh, my God, this is so incredible. We'll be back. Stay with us. That's right. No more Mr. Nice Guy. The gloves are off. And Trump's got to take the gloves off and not just have his surrogates out there exposing the fact that this is all a giant fraud. They are sending the CIA to the electors. It's been announced, led by Nancy Pelosi's horrid daughter, to tell them, oh, don't vote for Trump. Don't represent your votes you pledged because he's such a horrible, evil man. Now, the problem is, Clapper on Monday admitted they don't know where WikiLeaks got their info. And other intelligence agencies, it turns out, have not concurred. And it's a secret group within the CIA that said this, so it's all lies. It isn't 17 agencies. It isn't the whole CIA. Congress can't even see it. But Obama's ordering a big investigation. Well, you know what? Trump needs to say, we need an investigation of the communist Chinese that admittedly gave upwards of $300 million to Hillary and put it in newspapers. And the Saudis said that they gave 20% of the $1.4 billion that she raised. Another $1 billion was raised or more by super PACs. So we're talking 2.4, 2.5 billion. And they're talking about half of it was from foreign powers and foreign corporations. And then all the illegals voting. The Russians with the GDP of Italy, they're behind everything. It's those Ruskies. In the cold weather, if the pipes burst on your house, it was the Ruskies. If you slip on a banana peel, it's the Ruskies. If you don't pay your mortgage, it's the Ruskies. France wants to pull out of the euro. It's the Ruskies. Italy's trying to pull out. It's the Ruskies. UK pulled out. It's the Ruskies. I don't want to turn my guns in because of the Ruskies. The American people didn't vote. They didn't win. No, the Ruskies carried Pennsylvania. The Ruskies carried Ohio. The Ruskies carried Florida. The Ruskies carried Michigan. The Ruskies, not the Americans. No, the Americans, they can't do anything. They can't get their jobs back, even though he's already acting like the president. He's the commander-in-chief already, getting cheered by the Army-Navy game as Obama's basically booed. But they don't care because Keith Olbermann, if you just tuned in, does this whole fake thing that he's angry. And then we're at war and we don't do something drastic. And then all the big newspapers have op-eds, kill Trump, kill, kill, kill. No one goes to jail. No one gets indicted. I had a guy sending me letters in like 2002 saying, I'm going to kill Bush when he comes to town. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. I've got the weapons. I thought it was a setup, like they were trying to set me up or something. So I called the Secret Service. They came over, got the material. A week later, it was in the Tennessee papers. People were calling me. They got this big arsenal. He was completely crazy. He was planning to kill the president. I mean, they used to arrest you for this. Now they just get up on there and go, I'm going to organize killing the president. Hollywood director doesn't get in trouble. Doesn't even get Secret Service visits. They're organizing the demonization and the political assassination of Trump. They're assassinating his name, his family, his character, and anyone that supports him at a high level like yours truly. Well, you know what? I'm honored to support somebody that wants Americana and private property back and wants to bring our jobs back. I'm honored to support somebody that supports the Second Amendment and our veterans. I'm honored. Because Trump isn't perfect, but he's not out to get this country. Now, let's play Clapper speaking to Congress yesterday, admitting all of this while it's all contradicted. Here's the head of the CIA contradicting his own agency to cover his butt when they have this new nebulous secret report that's been given to the Washington Post again, who had to retract last week that the alt-right is actually run by the Russians. They actually say, I am run by the Russians. Their evidence is he's gone on Russian TV before, and Japanese, and British, and Brazilian, and Canadian. I've been on Canadian TV probably 50 times. I mean, I'm a Canadian. Oh, yeah. Canadians are so nice, you could wipe your butt with their flag, and they'd apologize to you for it. That's political correctness. No more. So let's go ahead and go to Clapper.
Director, I want to drill down a little further into your comment that
the Russian... This is Adam Schiff, the Democrat, who accused last Thursday Fox News primetime host Tucker Carlson of being a Russian agent. This is the atmosphere we've now entered. Just some context. That's the Democrat from California on the Intelligence Committee, a disgraceful, malnourished chipmunk. So let's start the clip over.
Director, I want to drill down a little further into your comment that the Russian activity curtailed after the issuance of the statement. The dumping of documents didn't end with the issuance of the statement. Are you implying by this that that we know whether the documents provided to either cutouts or WikiLeaks
look at those pillow biter eyes.
Had all been provided prior to
not
the
against the fact it was a pillow biter?
Or is it entirely possible that the dumping of documents continued after the statement?
But I'm telling you, somebody's catching some fastballs.
And what may have been avoided was a further escalation of the interference in the form of trying to monkey around on Election Day or thereafter.
I was referring to the cyber reconnaissance that we had observed.
Hit pause.
Many states.
We don't edit these things. This happens on mainstream news, too. I don't know what it is. We try different downloaders. When you download these HD clips, it just does little pauses and then cuts back in. That's not edited. By the way, I should add, that's Clapper, who's an admitted Wahhabi, lived in Saudi Arabia off and on for 20 years, and is best friends with the king of Saud. And the word is, he converted to Islam for the money. But you wonder why we can't beat al-Qaeda or stop them, or why we aided al-Qaeda to take over the Middle East under the name of ISIS. It's called Clapper. The same guy that lied to Congress and says, the NSA does not spy on Americans ever. That's like saying, again, that the moon isn't made out of rock, or that the sun isn't yellow. I mean, let's start the clip over with Clapper. Here it is.
Director, I want to drill down a little further into your comment that the Russian activity curtailed after the issuance of the statement. The dumping of documents didn't end with the issuance of the statement. Are you implying by this that that we know whether the documents provided to either cutouts or WikiLeaks had all been provided prior to the statement that was issued? Or is it entirely possible that the dumping of documents continued after the statement?
Look how that guy looks at you.
And what may have been avoided was a further escalation of the interference in the form of trying to monkey around on Election Day or thereafter.
I was referring to the cyber reconnaissance that we had observed. Many states state entities had observed prior to the statement, and that sort of activity seemed to have curtailed. As far as the WikiLeaks connection, the evidence there is not as strong, and we don't have good insight into the sequencing of the releases or when the data may have been provided. We don't have as good insight into that.
Okay, so let's go back to Keith Olbermann. About a minute in, I was interrupting this point. Everything he was saying was a big fat lie. Let's go back to Keith Olbermann having his little fake meltdown, reading off a teleprompter. Here he is.
We are at war with Russia. Or perhaps more correctly, we have lost a war with Russia without a battle. We are no longer a sovereign nation. We are no longer a democracy. We are no longer a free people. We are the victims of a bloodless coup. So far, a bloodless coup engineered by Russia with, at best, the traitorous indifference of the Republican Party and Donald John Trump, a man who, to borrow a phrase from another December long ago, will live in infamy. In 5 weeks' time, unless desperate measures are taken, we will hand over the government to a man who lost the popular vote by more than Woodrow Wilson or Jimmy Carter wanted.
Pause again. By the way, I was saying Clapper is Islamicist. The word is he is too, and he spent a lot of time in Saudi Arabia, but it's John Brennan. They look the same, the same, but he is the guy that lied about the NSA. It's just, you look at the guy, he's a total BSer. But let's go back to Olbermann here. So Olbermann's saying he lost by more than anybody ever, basically, in the popular vote. except we know a bunch of illegals voted and a bunch of people voted for dead people. They got arrested all over the country doing it. We know that Trump gained votes when they did a recount. So there you go, Oberman. So it's all about undermining, because they want to finish off this country. They think they own it. They think they're better than you. Their whole ideology is about they're the leftist, they're the fops, they're the pseudo-intellectuals, they're the skinny tie wearers. They're going to show you bitter clingers. Here he is.
A man whom the Russians wanted to run our country for them, a man whom the Russians got to run our country for them, a man for whom the Russians interfered with our elections.
Pause again.
Which if we did it to another...
Okay, there you go. So the American people didn't vote. Nobody wants Trump. It's all Russian mind control.
Described as an act of war. And in this country, we have conceded defeat. Some experts,
God, they're
John
warmongering.
Kasich, strategist John Weaver for
against
one,
Russia,
have compared this to Pearl Harbor. Even the hard-right ex-Congressman Joe Walsh says Republican silence will be tantamount to treason. Some others, too.
Oh, even the Republican establishment is against Trump. Boy, what a surprise. And the CIA. You call yourself the resistance, Oberman, in this piece? You're the establishment hanging on by its fingernails, gasping for its last breath because you don't want us to make this country great again and be independent. Continue.
Who have proved courageous. Trump, self-destructive to the last, issued a childish statement mocking the CIA, but as Tim Dickinson of Rolling Stone noted, not denying anything.
He did deny it.
But the vast majority of Republicans have said nothing, and the vast majority of Democrats have said nothing, and the vast majority of the media has said nothing of substance.
Pause.
And
the media is in a complete hissy fit saying overturn the election. It's all over. The Russians are getting us. Everything he says is a lie or is twisted. I mean, this guy is an absolute liar. Trump put out all these tweets saying it's made up, it's bull, it's a conspiracy theory, this is outrageous. But he just says Trump just laughs about it. Notice he doesn't show you a clip, though. Let's continue with this disgraced, unemployed twit.
The president has said nothing close to enough. The CIA and FBI and Homeland Security, the institutions whose interest in freedom we on the left most frequently distrust, they have said something. They said it first to congressional and Senate Republicans in...
Back that up 15 seconds. Again, I could sit here and write a whole article about this. Somebody should. One of our writers should take my breakdown and then go over all the lies because this is all on record. The FBI says they've been through all the RNC servers and that it did not happen. And they've also said no evidence Russia was involved, but that China was. Because China is. But for Hillary, with their bots. So it's all on record. Just Google FBI disagrees with CIA about Russian hack. That was in the news yesterday, the day before, a week ago, a month ago, a year ago. Oberman is lying to his pseudo-intellectual idiot viewers. That's why Obama doesn't go on news anymore because they have no viewers. He goes on Comedy Central on fake news shows to push race-baiting narratives yesterday. And they've got sportscasters like this guy reading off teleprompters. He's an actor, folks. Let's go back to it.
The president has said nothing close to enough. The CIA and FBI and Homeland Security, the institutions whose interest in freedom we on the left most frequently distrust, they have said something. They said it first to congressional and Senate Republicans in September. Dire warnings.
All 17 agencies have said for over a year this is made up bull. Clapper said they didn't have proof yesterday. But some secret group talked to President Obama, and they did. And Hillary wants a new election now. Here it is. Let's go back to him.
Warnings that Mitch McConnell and other Republicans reportedly buried. Warnings that the Russians, using computer hacking and perhaps other means, were not merely trying to discredit the election, but to achieve the specific outcome of electing their man Trump. And finally, at the very last hour, some of those who did those briefings and some of those who received those briefings leaked the details to the New York Times, the Washington Post, CBS News, Reuters, in a torrent of anguished honesty. They said something. They said something as the president-not-elect began to veer towards appointing as Secretary of State, as our diplomatic face to the world, the CEO of Exxon, who 4 years ago received the Order of Friendship from Vladimir Putin. They said something as the members of the electoral...
Back that up. That's given to any major corporation or company that comes in and hires a lot of Russians. And we give foreign, Japan's gotten awards for moving their Tundra truck factories to Texas. Exxon's drilling all over the world. Russia isn't communist anymore. We need to work with Russia. China needs to be dealt with and encircled. It's the big evil operator, oppressing its own people. And that's the constellation Trump's going to set up. South Korea, Russia, Japan, in the East. You move to the West. Defeat the euro, bring liberty back, bring back deals and prosperity and not a wartime economy. He wants to get rid of these billion-dollar fighter planes already. Have a defense that works. Let's continue where Oberman really goes into the hissy fit.
The order of friendship from Vladimir Putin. They said something as the members of the Electoral College prepared to gather next Monday to finalize this coup. Some, perhaps unaware that almost half the states they represent permit them by law to vote for someone other than the
they want to
candidate to
block
whom they're
Trump being elected, folks.
and that only 38 of them need to do so to prevent this coup. They said something as one...
The coup by the American voters. They consider it a coup that they were unable to steal, even though she stole 5 states. Continue.
Especially chilling detail in one of the reports sailed by that, quote, the Russians hacked the Republican National Committee's computer systems in addition to their attacks on Democratic organizations, but did not release whatever information
the
they
FBI says that's not true.
Networks. It is a short leap from that conclusion, and it is anything but a conspiracy theory to be wondering if the Russians hacked the RNC and have kept what they found there to make sure Trump and the Republicans obeyed.
All right, hit pause again. I can tell by his eye movements and where he's looking every time and the way his eyes are moving. It's well known if you're in TV. Almost everybody uses it. He has those papers to act like that's his notes, but he's going from the heart. It's all off a teleprompter. He pauses, he breathes, he looks back up. I have these notes to really go off these because these are articles I'm showing you. Just a disgraceful pig monster. When we come back, we'll play the rest of it. But, man, when you're informed, you realize all of it's lies. Like 80% lies, 20% spin. None of it's truth. The FBI stood up. The FBI says that the RNC was hacked. The FBI's come out and said this is a complete lie. I mean, Oberman thinks you're an idiot. He's preying on you. He's a predator. I'm going to get back into Keith Oberman, and then we're going to get into a lot of really key geopolitical news. We have Roger Stone joining us with breaking news, Paul Watson coming up, Leanne McAdoo, and more. I want everybody to know that we're running a very important special right now until Friday. We'll probably run it through the weekend too, but you're guaranteed to get delivery before Christmas if you order by Friday at like 4 o'clock. Our little elves here at the InfoWars News Center, we have our distribution center next door, are going to be working right through the weekend to make sure it all gets mailed out by Saturday or Monday, the latest. That'll get you delivery before Christmas in the continental United States or in Hawaii or Alaska for that matter. But you've got to get the orders in. Free shipping store-wide. 50% off on colloidal silver. It's a great gift to give as well. So stock up and give a gift and support the InfoWar. Living Defense, 30% off. That's a parasite cleanser. Silver Bullet colloidal silver, 50% off. Brain Force, 33% off. Now 20% more in each bottle as well. Time for auto ship. Get additional 10% off. Winter Sun, vitamin D, key during the winter and spring and fall. That's 25% off. Survival Shield X2, whoa, 30% off that key compound. Bio, True Selenium, 30% off. Store-wide free shipping. InfoWarsStore.com. Not just at InfoWarsLife.com on the supplements. And I want to thank you all for your support. It probably will run out by tomorrow, but we're getting some in soon, but that'll be in the new year because, again, we don't want to have to hold stuff back and pay for inventory because it's so expensive, particularly compared to the other supplements we have. That's DNA Force, 20% off or 25% off right now as well. The amazing Bio-PQQ, CoQ10, and other cofactors. You get this from medical facilities for $300, $400. It's $102 right now. Nobody discounts a true nutraceutical like this at this price. Oh, I guess they took the 25% off. I said extend that. I guess it's about to sell out. That's why they must have done that. All right, well, try to change it back, or I guess it must have sold out. They're holding back for folks that are on auto ship. And I want to announce this. I'm going to have my dad in studio later in the week. We kept working with some of the biggest toothpaste manufacturers in the country. My dad's an oral surgeon and dentist. He was managing hundreds of clinics when he retired 3 years ago and came to work with us here developing products. As he's developed things that have gotten FDA approval before on the drug side. We wanted him for compliance He's also a chemist working with Dr. Group and others. I mainly hired him for FDA compliance, though it's not drugs, it's nutraceuticals. And it's good to have a doctor as well so you can actually get some of these compounds. Even though they're not controlled substances, they don't sell you stuff. I mean, Mitsubishi America doesn't talk to you unless you've got a doctor on staff. Now, he did everything. He said, just let me do it because I've tried for 3 years to get a toothpaste like this that just had iodine and colloidal silver in it. True high-quality iodine, not potassium iodine, but pure atomic iodine. That doesn't mean nuclear. It means in its true form. From deep earth crystals, 999999 pure. Well, ladies and gentlemen, my dad even made the graphic. I'm going to redo it. It's cute. It looks like something from the 50s, but he even did this himself. He said, let me do everything. It took him about a year to do it. We failed after 2 years. So a year ago, he took it over, and suddenly it's here. Now, I've had testers of this that have been coming in for 6 months when he was testing different types of it. We got 10,000 containers of this. It is $9.95. It costs us like $4 a tube. So normally toothpaste is $4 a tube because it doesn't have all these ingredients in it. But it's $9.95. It's discounted from $12.95. It's a big old heavy tube of it, and it's called Super Blue. That's his name. Non-fluoride toothpaste. It's got peppermint and tea tree oil and iodine and nano silver. This stuff is incredible. I mean, and I can't tell you how much heart disease is caused, obviously, because of bad gums and the bacteria getting into the bloodstream and getting into the ventricles. This is the best toothpaste out there. Nobody's got this. It's game changer. InfoWarsLife.com. Be the first to get Super Blue in the original container my dad designed. It's still pretty good, better than I would do. It's just that my dad did all this. David Jones, Dr. David Jones. All right, so Oberman is floating this conspiracy theory that's made up. I mean, it's a fact Hillary got money from the communist Chinese and Saudi Arabia. They bragged about it, and it's illegal. That's mainstream news. No proof of the Russians. Clapper admits that. We've got the White House spokesman coming out, John Earnest, yesterday, and admitting it's the Chinese. I mean, they can't even get their bull straight. But Oberman says this is anything but a conspiracy theory. We're at war with Russia. What a wonderful idea. They're not encroaching on us. They have nothing to do with us. Let's just have a war because the liberal Oberman is desperate to keep Donald Trump out of power. This just proves how bad these people are. They're so much worse than I even thought. They know they're an enemy force of the globalists bringing the country down. They're never going to stop, folks. They're not going to coexist with us. Understand that. So they're calling for Trump's death, my death, you name it. Let's go back to Oberman. That's just such a disgraceful idiot. Here it is.
And it is anything but a conspiracy theory to be wondering if the Russians hacked the RNC and have kept what they found there to make sure Trump and the Republicans obeyed.
Okay, let's hit pause again. The FBI never said that. They said they were not hacked. They didn't have their servers in their bathroom like Hillary. You are a liar, Oberman. Back to him.
States who at this rate will be the last freely elected president of the United States, made in his measured way a small gesture last Friday that perhaps opened the door to these horrifying revelations of a coup by an outside power nearly complete. He asked
Can we hit pause again? The coup is nearly complete of the voters. Let's just say the Russians did it, which the British ambassador met a month ago in D.C. with the high-level U.S. intelligence officer that leaked it. William Binney has told me on air 6 months ago that it was an intel officer. He said on air he thinks it is. I'm going to stop right there. When I've had dinner with Benny, there's people following us around, okay? I mean, he's the former head of the NSA Technical. I mean, I live in a spy movie. I'm just going to stop right there. The point is we know it was U.S. intel. They hate Obama. They hate Hillary. And by the way, they're the ones that are going to release more Oberman. They're not blackmailing. They're trying to fix the country. It's so damaging, though, Oberman. They're holding it back because it's that bad. But it's worse than letting you continue on. So go ahead and fill your hand, dumbass. You're up against real men now, Dumbo, that don't use teleprompters. We do the hanging, boy. Figure it out. We run the country. We built it. You're just a parasite. Now, the Russians are blackmailing people. You're the ones with the illegal servers. You're the ones calling us scum and saying you want us poor and desperate in the emails. Don't change the subject, dirtbag, that the mainstream media has discredited, saying Trump would lose or all the fake emails. You're desperately trying to change the subject from what a scumbag you are. Back to the traitor.
But we do not have time for a full review. Barack Obama has twice stood in front of America, in front of the world, in front of history, and said, I do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States and will, to the best of my ability,
dissolve the borders
preserve,
and
protect, and defend the Constitution
force
of the United
inoculations
States.
and come after our guns.
Today is the time for him to do so. He must immediately declassify and release all relevant materials held by the FBI, the CIA, DHS, and the other intelligence and security services, and in the White House, and anywhere else in government. And the Attorney General must immediately appoint a special prosecutor to investigate what Donald Trump knew and when he knew it.
Oh, yeah.
And what, if any, collusive links exist now
the
or existed
Ruskies
earlier between the Russian Federation and the Republican National Committee. If Trump does grab power, he can try to dismiss that special prosecutor, but he will at least have to get the courts to sanction him. And most immediately, the intelligence briefing proposed today for the Electoral College, what the CIA and the others know, when they knew it, how much the Trump campaign knew, that must be conducted without delay and without redaction.
Let's hit pause as he reads off a teleprompter. I told Trump this publicly and privately. He must go on the offense. They're never going to stop. He's got to bring out China and Saudi Arabia, how they openly bragged they ran the election. All right, he's back from New York. He's writing his book that will be the total inside breakdown of how Trump won right through the transition. It's Roger Stone. He's listening to the bottom of the hour. Then Paul Watson takes over for the rest of the transmission because I've got some big fish to fry. I'm just going to leave it at that. So much unfolding, so much happening. I knew the globalists wouldn't give up because Trump's for real. He wants to make America great again. He's not perfect. He's kind of a strong man, but he does want free market. He does want prosperity. He wants to preside over that largesse. You know, Rome had emperors that had, you know, golden ages of jobs and freedom and prosperity. Then they had emperors that wanted to make people poor and control them, like Nero. And we're going through that right now as an empire. Trump wants to make us a republic again. And I just played Keith Olbermann just foaming at the mouth, frothing, saying, we're at war. We must bring him out. Any means necessary. We must stop him. The CIA, visit the electors. And they've announced the CIA, this rogue group that is all secretive, is going to go talk to the electors. And basically it's like talking to a jury, like the mafia does, and say, hey, how's your daughter doing? Where'd your puppy dog go? You better do the right thing. And if the average American gets visited by the CIA, they might go ahead and say, okay, I'm not going to pledge myself to the voters as I promised. Now, also the Democrats admit they infiltrated people into those processes, and now Nancy Pelosi's daughter is leading it. You cannot make this up. A new article on INFOWARS.com by Kellen McBreen, proof foreign governments did interfere in election to help Hillary. The communist Chinese and the Saudi Arabians bragged in newspapers they'd given hundreds of millions through U.S. subsidiaries. That's illegal. But Hillary controlled the Justice Department. So they're the ones getting foreign money. They're the ones bringing the illegals in. They're the ones with the EU involved and the Pope and all this. And then they say Trump is, and then Clapper is in front of the Congress yesterday and says there's no proof they were involved in WikiLeaks. The FBI says no proof they hacked the RNC. But Olbermann and everybody else in Hillary comes out and Podesta and says the FBI agrees and all 17 agencies agree. The problem is, and this is not getting any real traction, it's in a few newspapers, top U.S. spy agencies refuses to endorse CIA's Russian hacking assessment due to lack of evidence, says it's a thin read, no proof of intent. That's the Office of the Director of National Intelligence that oversees all other 16 agencies. It was set up in 2002 to coordinate. It's the boss. So they are really putting this disinfo out, which shows they will go to any lengths. Roger Stone of the StoneColdTruth.com, former head of the Trump campaign, and, of course, former best friends with Richard Nixon as well. Boy, the old days of Nixon, he looks like a loving American compared to these monsters. I tell you, they are arrogant. They are angry. They are full of bravada and chutzpah. I don't know what to say at this point. They are frothing mad. They're pissed on the street. This is a true cult. I think, Roger, if anything, this has revealed the fact that the modern liberal is a very dangerous gang member mental patient, and their leaders are even worse than them. What do you make of all this hysteria and where this is going?
Well, Alex, this is a concerted campaign with several steps. The first step has been to harp on the popular vote by which, of course, we don't elect the president, and the fact that Hillary has, at least with the counting where we are today, a lead there. Then secondarily was the phony recount in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, in the hopes that it would yield something, but it yielded nothing.
Well, gain votes for Trump.
It yielded a slight gain for Trump, and it proved nothing in Wisconsin. Now, thirdly, is this whole canard about Russia. We still have no proof of this whatsoever. It's a theme, but it's a theme without proof. The New York Times wrote that Congressman McCall, a Republican from Texas, said, oh, yes, the Russians were involved. But when I checked, that was based on a verbal briefing from the CIA. He's seen no proof. So this is an effort, you're absolutely right, aimed directly at the electors to try to spook the electors. It's the last grasp of the power establishment, the two-party duopoly, the world globalists, to keep control, because they see control of the federal government going to Donald Trump.
And let's just say this, very slowly, very calmly, and let this roll off your tongue and roll off your mind, folks, like water off the duck's back, but let it sink in. The CIA, a rogue secret group run by Obama and Soros and Hillary, admittedly says they want new elections on CNN led by Bob Baer, whose job is overthrowing governments. This is a discredited, professional liar group. They are openly saying, we're going to visit the electors and have a little talk with them. Translate that, the CIA is going to try to intimidate people sworn and pledged to represent the popular vote of people within the Electoral College in those states he took. So he did get the vote in those states. And they're saying, don't listen to that. Overturn the election. This is outrageous.
Yeah, it's a power grab. Given the CIA's history of lies, lying about Benghazi, lying about Vietnam, lying about the Kennedy assassination, lying about everything in their entire history, this is all agitprop. This is the last grasp of the establishment. I think Trump has been right on point by saying this entire argument is ridiculous. Yet no one wants to look at the role of the Saudis or the Chinese, particularly the Saudis, in Hillary's campaign, where they're openly bragging about financing her effort to hold on to the White House.
So what's the next step? I mean, how powerful is this move going to be? Because I know a lot of people have been underestimating it. I've been concerned since November 9th, that night, when it was announced he was the winner. I told you, sitting in this room, as the champagne glasses had been drained at 3 a.m., I said, Roger, my gut tells me they're going to try to assassinate him. They're going to try to overturn this election. They're going to play possum. I mean, I really have been proven right that we cannot underestimate how evil these people are.
No, look, I think that the good news is, of course, that the electors in most cases are loyal Republicans. I do think there needs to be some counterpoint, some communication between them and the president-elect and the transition.
And the CIA should not be going and talking to electors, some nebulous secret group from the CIA.
Completely inappropriate. And we have to presume that once President Trump takes office, that he now needs to clean out the CIA, top to bottom. The last president to do that was Jimmy Carter, and it proved to be quite dangerous, as you know.
Yeah, he needs to pull all the snot-nosed, white shoe boy Ivy Leaguers that think they're better than everybody. Just if you're an Ivy Leaguer, you're not in the CIA, pull them out and then put people from all over the country, diverse backgrounds in, and mainly military people from the 4 branches of the military. And that's where it should be anyways. We always had military intelligence, naval and army before that. It's time to pull out all the East Coast, blue blood, Atlantic accent, Thurston Howell III garbage. It's time to pull that East Coast, Anglophile coup, which they admit it is, out of there and put the military back in control of intelligence. I say get rid of every frickin' blue blood.
I'm in total agreement. The place needs to be cleaned out top to bottom, as does the FBI. Clearly, under Director Comey, the FBI has acted in a blatantly political matter. They have now lied about the 650,000 emails in the trove kept by Huma Abedin and her husband Anthony Weiner. which I think will be the ultimate downfall and prosecution of the Clintons. Donald Trump needs to clean house. He really needs to drain the swamp, and he can start at the two largest law enforcement agencies we have, or I should say the two largest investigative agencies that we have.
Now, the FBI's done a lot of bad things, obviously, but compared to the CIA, they have an ancient feud. But the FBI's on record saying the RNC was not hacked, Russia was not doing all this. Obviously, Russia was probably getting into servers like dozens of other governments because Hillary was out there dangling it in front of everybody. That's Russia's job. But influencing the election, this is laughable. The Chinese brag, the Saudi Arabians brag, as you know, that they were pumping hundreds of millions into Hillary. Why doesn't Trump come out with all his surrogates and point out the headlines where they bragged that they were the ones that influenced it and say, you're the one that's going to get investigated, DNC, and start indicting their asses?
Well, it's funny you say that, Alex. I've just written a memo to that effect. I mean, I'm in total agreement. It's time to go on offense. President-elect Trump has been very conciliatory since he became the designee to become president. He has, I think, sought to unite the country. He has met with people who are admittedly his opponents, people who were adamantly opposed to his election. But now it's time to act, I frankly think, in a more partisan fashion, because these are partisan attacks. They go beyond Republican
It's
Democrats.
an attack on the integrity of this country. They're claiming we're Russian agents. We have to have war with Russia. Have you seen Oberman and others foaming at the mouth going, we are at war with Russia. We need to have a war. What the hell are they...
After I spoke to you yesterday, I was walking down the street in Manhattan. I was on 2nd Avenue in the 60s, and a man came up to me and spit on me and called me a Soviet spy, a Russian spy, and a scumbag. This is the tolerance of
Did I not warn you yesterday morning that this is happening to me?
Yes, I heard you were assaulted on the trail, on the hiking trail.
And it's the same deal.
This is the tolerance of the liberals who keep arguing that there's no civility in our politics. I mean, this guy was rabid. He was drooling at the mouth. I did nothing to provoke him. He evidently recognized me from INFOWARs, and he just went animal.
Let me ask you this question. I mean, how did you respond to him? I know you're half Sicilian. You told me Italians don't put up with that.
Well, I should have just decked him right then and there, but the light changed, frankly, and he took off, and I wasn't in a suit in the mood to chase him.
Sure, that's what they do. That's what they do. They run off. But, I mean, why do you think they're so wild-eyed? I get the criminals at the top. They've got a stake in taking the country down and feeding off of it and selling it off, in a corporate takeover. But why do their minions hate us so much when all we want to do is cut their taxes and make America great again?
Because they believe the constant mainstream media harangue that we are bigots, that we are racists, that Trump is going to finance the Ku Klux Klan, that he's going to roll back gay marriage, that he is going to arrest people for using medicinal marijuana. None of these things are true. But when the mainstream media repeats them ad nauseum over and over and over again, the people at the bottom, the shock troops, the average leftist starts to believe them. So they have poisoned the atmosphere. They have lied repeatedly about Trump. They're still stunned that he won this election.
And that's right. And they also have turned the rhetoric up so high. They keep saying, our rhetoric's high. We're going to get people killed. They had an article in the Washington Post, as you know, yesterday saying Donald Trump's going to get people killed because he mildly tweeted back at the union head of the Steelworkers Union in Indianapolis that said he hadn't done enough. He said, what's your problem? No wonder you lost those jobs. You're the one that couldn't keep them. I brought back 85% of them. What's your problem? I mean, they say we're violent for standing up for ourselves politely while they're calling for killing Trump in every major publication.
Well, these are the same people who had nothing to say when it was revealed that we did, in fact, lose some CIA assets. Were killed because of the leaked emails of Hillary Clinton. That didn't bother them at all. The fact that she had put her emails on a server where this country's enemies could easily access them. So this is the typical double standard. I will breathe easier after the electors have cast their vote, but at this point, I think the die is cast. I don't think the the concerted campaign, and this is a campaign with multiple steps, is going to be successful.
I think it's one of the biggest campaigns I've ever seen. I mean, the bots, the attacks on myself, you, on Trump, I mean, it's synthetic. I see it. It's twice what was at the peak of the election. It is foaming at the mouth insanity. Soros, just as a metric, has doubled his money to Black Lives Matter. All the big corporations are just spilling money out for civil insurrection, I guess, in the next 37 days. I mean, this is just bedlam, Roger. Let me ask you that question. People can Google the Electoral College. It'll come up with some breakdowns of how it works. The 19th, they vote. By the 6th, they've got to be in. Then Congress, I guess, starts looking at it if there's any dispute. So when will we know definitively if they've been successful? Because they are calling for a new election, as you know. I mean, this is a concerted move to have a coup against the American voter.
My guess is you'll have leaks out of the Congress, and you'll have a running count that is in public. I'm sure that there are a few Republican electors who will go over the side, mostly, Bush supporters who got on the party's slate to be an elector. These are chosen by the state parties, let's remember. But by and large, this may be the genius of Trump selecting Reince Priebus. If he isn't out there working these electors as the titular head of the Republican Party, he ought to be. These are his people. These are the state party's people who were selected to be these electors. And it would be Priebus's major job to keep them in line.
Roger, I've been asking the questions here in the few minutes we have left. Obviously, you've been at Trump Tower quite a bit. You're writing your book. You've cut back on interviews. I'm proud you're still coming here. You're going to be hosting the 4th hour tomorrow. Give folks the title of the book again. It's very powerful. I've already seen some of the little snippets. I know you've been interviewing myself and the president and others for it. But separately, a president-elect, this is a political statement to send it to #1 political books. It's going to have a blueprint into the future as well that I know meshes with Bannon and President Trump. People need to see what the real blueprint is, not even so much the rhetoric. Tell folks about the name of your book and how they get it.
Sure. It's called The Making of the President, 2016, How Donald Trump Orchestrated an American Revolution. You can order it today in advance on Amazon or Barnes & Noble. You can go shortly to the INFOWARS.com store and order it there. This is going to be the definitive inside look of how Donald Trump pulled off the greatest political upset in U.S. political history. But it's also going to be a blueprint to the future. And how Trump plans to transform America and make it great again. I'm using the writing style of the late Theodore H. White, Teddy White, who I actually knew quite well, who I met in the '76 presidential campaign. So I'm going to be looking at kind of the big national trends that elected Trump, but I'm also going to be, producing some down and dirty vignettes from the campaign trail.
Sure.
So I think it's going to be a great read.
I hope sometime after this is all over and the president's, ensconced and we're reversing the globalist cancer that you'll come on and talk about, because I've done a little bit of stalking of you, and I probably read 20 New York Times articles about you going back to the 80s with you and Roy Cohn and Donald Trump hanging out and all the stuff you were up to. Of course, they demonized Roy Cohn and lied about him, who he was, what he did, a hard-nosed lawyer, of course, of the whole McCarthy era. But that's who Trump sat at the knee of. And who really helped him. That's why they're so scared of him, because Roy Cohn was anti-communist, pro-America, pro-free market, and that's what's got him so scared, too.
Well, and he was a brawler. He was a fighter. I mean, I didn't know him, obviously, in the 50s, because I was born in 1952. But I knew him later in the New York years, and he was one of the major figures in the defeat of Jimmy Carter and the election of Ronald Reagan. He was, by the way, a lifelong Democrat. He also was, I think, transformative in Donald Trump's understanding of the world outside of Queens. He was very helpful to Donald in his move to Manhattan and his move to become the most prominent real estate developer in the world, not just in Manhattan, but in the world.
That's right. Thank you, Roger. You're going to be hosting tomorrow, 4th hour, StoneColdTruth.com.
We have Matt Boyle from Breitbart News is going to come on and talk to us about the fight over fake news. And we have St. John Hunt, the son of the legendary CIA agent E. Howard Hunt, who's going to talk to us about the duplicity of the CIA in this entire Russian canard regarding the election.
And, of course, we premiered it, so did Coast to Coast AM, George Norrie. His father was who Mission Impossible was admittedly named after, Ethan Hunt. And, of course, so that's why the guy was named Hunt in Mission Impossible. He was a famous sniper in World War II and ran the operation killing Kennedy in Dallas, did the deathbed confession, and the media certainly ignored that. One of the plumbers. By the way, you were the junior member of the plumbers, the only guy that didn't go to prison. Did you know Mr. Hunt?
I did know Mr. Hunt, but I was not a plumber. I was on a completely different.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, some of the media says you were a junior plumber.
Yeah, no, I broke no laws. I did go to the Watergate grand jury, but I didn't know much of interest to them.
You're a walking history book. Thank you so much, Roger Stone.
Great to be here, Alex.
You bet. Wow, he's amazing. Okay, hey, I'm going to punch out and let Watson take over. But we're running some of the biggest deals of the year. Free shipping store-wide on water filtration systems, on books, on videos, on nutraceuticals, InfoWarsLife.com. And we have huge specials. By the way, they came to me and they said, yeah, we've pulled 25% off on DNA Force. We've only got 500 bottles. That'll sell out by the end of the year. You said that, you know, you want to run out the inventory. That's why you're doing these sales, so there's no taxes on it. Plus, we want to give folks a good deal for Christmas so they can get presents as well and support the broadcast and see how great the products are. That's me repeating, you know, how my brain works. And I said, I don't care. Sell it out except for those that have it held back for auto ship. Additional 10% off when you sign up for auto ship. So we have it available right now. DNA Force, 25% off until it sells out. And it probably will be today. DNA Force, InfoWarsLife.com, or call toll-free 888-253-3139. Living Defense, 30% off. Silver Bullet, Colloidal Silver, 50% off. Brain Force Plus, 33% off. Winter Sun, Vitamin D3, 25% off. Survival Shield X2, 30% off. Bio True Selenium, 30% off. And more, more, more. Thank you for your support. You cannot lose buying products from us because they're great products, and you're funding the globalist #1 enemy. I mean, they hate us as much as Trump now. We are being hit hard. And we're being hit with bots and filters and blockers and to try to just kill our meteoric rise. We're going up, 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 up like this. And, you know, they're trying to keep us from just climbing, climbing, climbing. But we're just spawning new people that are waking up, new media outlets. Our talking points are being picked up anywhere, you know, all over the place. You just can't stop the signal. It's just absolute Americana. Spider on the table. Up against this republic. So, again, want to invite all of you to also get a product that my dad, an oral surgeon, a dentist, also a chemist. He's worked in, you know, drugs being developed that have been approved, you name it. Well, this is all just supplements, so it's not that. But, boy, I tell you, it is the ultimate toothpaste. It's called Super Blue non-fluoride toothpaste, with the first one ever with iodine, the true atomic iodine, the pure, clean iodine, nano silver. Colloidal silver, folks, peppermint and tea tree oil and so much more. And it turns blue, not red, because, you know, iodine that's bound turns red. This is blue, no coloring. It comes out white and turns blue because it's got the, you know, active iodine in it. It's incredible. Super Blue, available, $9.95, discounted, because it cost a lot to do this. I mean, we've made a huge batch of it, too. But to get the silver and the iodine, all of it into it in the proper way is really hard to do. InfoWarsLife.com. I want to salute everybody that voted for Trump of every race, color, and creed. We're all human. Red blood. The globalists are in retreat all over the world. They're panicking. Nationalism and self-determination is rising. Now, Paul has just shot another exclusive video that just went up on InfoWars.com. Total debunking of the mainstream media fake news narrative. But he shot another viral video that we're going to play in a moment that deals with the total fraud of claiming that the Russians hacked the election. Now, that was yesterday. Since then, we've seen the White House press secretary come out and say it's the Chinese that hacked. Well, they were for Hillary publicly. And since then, we've seen the head of all the intelligence agencies come out and say the CIA's wrong, and this is all basically bull, and that the CIA is just being political, and they can't show intent by the Russians. Meanwhile, proof foreign governments did interfere in the election to help Hillary, but it was China. It was Saudi Arabia who brag about it. But my big question to Paul Watson before I play this video and interrupt him with himself, then he plays this other exclusive video premiering in here right now. My concern is the arrogance, the hysteria, the craziness. Paul, my concern is they're going to not stop. So I think Trump's got to get on the offensive with the fact that they were influencing the election with foreign powers, but it was Hillary doing it, Paul.
No, exactly. If you look at the original WikiLeaks emails, It was the Clinton camp, it was Clinton supporters that came out with that fake news that the WikiLeaks emails were doctored. That was the origin, and then the media talking heads, the Clintonites in the media, seized on that, put out those fake WikiLeaks that were created by Clinton supporters to make Trump supporters look bad, and then the media pushed that. So if you go back to the very origin of this fake news scandal, which coincides with the Russian thing, it was created by the Clinton camp and then pushed by the mainstream media. But you mentioned, I mean, you were concerned about Trump. As of 2 hours ago, a student with a bag full of knives, weapons, explosives tried to get into Trump Tower. Now he claims that he's a Trump supporter and that he's been walking around New York for years with a bag full of knives, weapons, and explosives, if you believe that. So we're already seeing the mainstream media's hysterical fake news narrative about Trump being the next.
You're going to break it all down as no one else can, and then you're also going to be hosting an hour on Thursday, Paul. But before you go any further, what do you make of Oberman's complete meltdown?
Well, it's a complete role reversal, isn't it, of the McCarthyite idea that anyone who dissents against the establishment is in league with Russia. And again, they planned this months before the election. In fact, a Breitbart article called it How Clinton's Russia Conspiracy Theory Could Nullify the Vote. They planned, if Trump won, this was their reserve plan, to blame Russia for hacking the election.
Sure, in fact, we said that
months ago.
We said that at the time. We wrote articles, Breitbart did as well. Now, here is your report on what really happened with Russia and the election. Here's Paul Watson, and then we'll come back to the live Paul Watson. Paul, take over.
The post-election riots failed. The death threats against Electoral College members failed. Jill Stein's recount failed. Your entire fake news narrative failed. And now this.
Individuals connected to the Russian government reportedly provided WikiLeaks with hacked emails as part of a wider Russian operation to boost Trump and hurt Clinton's chances.
The left is willing to risk civil war in America and nuclear war with Russia because they're butthurt about losing. Let that sink in. Not a single shred of evidence has been presented to support the claim that Russia hacked the election. Former UK Ambassador Craig Murray met the DNC leaker and said he was not Russian. He was a disgruntled insider. Julian Assange said all along that the source was not Russia.
The Clinton camp has been able to project a kind of neo-McCarthyist hysteria that Russia is responsible for everything. That's false.
So who do you trust? WikiLeaks, an organisation with impeccable credibility that has never put a foot wrong, or anonymous CIA sources whose entire job description is based on deception. And who are these CIA sources? They can't tell us, but they're undoubtedly the same agenda-driven Democrat sympathisers who are already under Inspector General investigation.
The transition put out a statement that essentially humiliated the CIA.
No, it's not the whole CIA saying this. And Trump isn't impugning the whole CIA when he says that this story is total BS. These anonymous CIA sources claim that Russia hacked the RNC as well, but only released negative information about the DNC. Yeah, one problem with that, the FBI investigated and found no evidence for it. The RNC was not hacked.
The RNC was absolutely not hacked, number one. We had the FBI in the RNC. We've been working with the FBI. We've had intelligence experts here.
Hang on.
No, hang on, Chuck. No, the RNC
explain why you had the FBI
was not hacked.
The RNC offered conclusive proof to the New York Times that they weren't hacked, and the New York Times ignored it.
So the intelligence is wrong. It didn't happen. We offered the New York Times conclusive proof that it didn't happen. They refused to look at that. They ignored it because it didn't fit the narrative.
The FBI also investigated any Russian links to Donald Trump and found none whatsoever. You have zero evidence. Even the Washington Post admits that this is all inconclusive. There's also zero evidence that the Russians hacked John Podesta's emails.
Can you look right into the camera and say, I know for a fact the government of Vladimir Putin was behind the hacks of John Podesta's email?
Absolutely. The government of Vladimir Putin was behind the hacks of our institution and the dumping of information.
Of John Podesta's email.
Not only in the United States, but also in Europe.
Okay, you're not, you know what, you're dodging.
And Tucker,
no, look and say, I know they did. John Podesta's emails, they hacked those.
And I think that Ronald Reagan will be rolling.
One last time, Congressman. Look in the camera and say they hacked John Podesta's emails. We know for a fact that Putin's government did that. You can't, and you know you can't, and you're hiding behind weasel words.
I just said that the
say they hacked John Podesta's emails.
Russians, I'm not going to be specific as to
because you don't know it, that's why. All right, done. One.
The left is now conspiring with rogue elements of the CIA to initiate an internal coup within the United States and overthrow a democratically elected president. Let that sink in. They're trying to manipulate electoral college members to not cast their votes for Trump on December 19th. Top Democrats are already saying that electors should reconsider their votes in light of this story. They could also pressure members of the House and Senate to object to the electoral vote on January 6th, when a normally routine counting process could be turned into an anti-Trump filibuster. Obama is demanding an official report be submitted on all this before January 20th, the day of Trump's inauguration. Who will be heading up that report? James Clapper, the Director of National Intelligence, who lied under oath in front of Congress and the American people. Because he's really trustworthy, right? Just like the CIA, or elements of it, who suddenly became paragons of honesty after being bashed by the left for decades as liars and deceivers on an industrial scale.
Yes, the CIA has a long history of lies and overthrowing democratic governments, but that doesn't mean they're lying about Trump.
Yes, the CIA lied about everything else, but this one thing I agree with them on. So they must be right. It was the left who screamed bloody murder about Operation Mockingbird, a CIA program to hijack the US media to spread CIA propaganda. Now those same leftists are gleefully regurgitating CIA propaganda as if it's gospel. Give me a break. I can't believe we're seeing the same thing we saw post-Brexit. Calls for a second vote.
If the evidence is there, I don't see any other way than to vote again.
When will you people accept defeat? Now demented never-Trumpers like Louise Mensch are calling for Obama to bomb Russia. This is insane. They're calling for Obama to declare a state of emergency to cancel the election result. And isn't it funny how all you Democrats who cry over foreign influence had no objection whatsoever to Saudi Arabia bankrolling Hillary's campaign? You had no problem taking all that George Soros money, did you? You had no problem with the Obama State Department overthrowing the government of Ukraine. You had no problem with Obama interfering in the UK's referendum on leaving the EU, and to see the same prostitutes who prostrated themselves for Hillary now trying to take the moral high ground is sickening. Now Russia is being accused of spearheading a campaign to cost Angela Merkel the election in Germany. So either Russia has suddenly launched a coordinated effort to sabotage Western democratic elections, or the unpopular leaders of those countries have suddenly launched a coordinated propaganda campaign to blame Russia for absolutely everything to distract voters from their own failed policies. Which do you think is more likely to be true? That is the truth about Russia hacking the election. That's up on YouTube. Get it out. The twin narratives of the mainstream media, the Russia hack story and the fake news story, are completely collapsing. And we're going to go straight to this second video. We're going to play out with this because this just went up on Infowars.com as of about an hour ago. It's huge. Get it out. It's called What They're Not Telling You About Fake News. Here it is.
The epidemic of malicious fake news and false propaganda that flooded social media over the past year. It's imperative that leaders in both the private sector and the public sector step up to protect our democracy and innocent lives.
So the woman who voted for a war that was sold on a diet of fake news, a war that killed hundreds of thousands of innocent people, is lecturing Americans about fake news posing a threat to innocent people. Give me a break, Hillary. You're the queen of fake news.
This isn't about politics or partisanship. Lives are at risk.
Where was your concern for putting lives at risk when you pushed the fake news that rebels in Libya and Syria were moderate? when they were bloodthirsty jihadists. Fake news that led to the deaths and displacement of hundreds of thousands of innocent people and the rise of ISIS. Where was your concern for the 4 innocent American lives lost in Benghazi when you pushed the fake news that a YouTube video was to blame for the attack?
We've seen rage and violence directed at American embassies over an awful internet video.
When Hillary's not pushing fake news to launch wars or cover-ups, she's faking news about being under Bosnian sniper fire to make herself look tough.
I remember landing under sniper fire. There was supposed to be some kind of a greeting ceremony at the airport, but instead we just ran with our heads down to get into the vehicles to get to our base. I made a mistake in describing it.
She claimed she misspoke last week and was sleep-deprived when she described landing under sniper fire in Tuzla, Bosnia, something that didn't happen. But CBS News has found several times in the past few months when Senator Clinton used the Bosnia trip to try to show her international experience. December in Iowa.
We landed in one of those corkscrew landings and ran out because they said there might be sniper fire.
Then in February,
the welcoming ceremony had to be moved inside because of sniper fire.
Being lectured by Hillary Clinton about fake news is like being lectured by Bill Cosby about not raping women. And the same goes for the mainstream media. Brian Williams is now lecturing us about fake news. Brian frigging Williams.
As we talked about here last night, fake news played a role in this election and continues to find a wide audience. 2 of our 4 helicopters were hit by ground fire, including the one I was in. I want to apologize. I said I was traveling in an aircraft that was hit by RPG fire. I was instead in a following aircraft.
I mean, what's next? Is Lance Armstrong going to start lecturing us about performance-enhancing drugs? Your whole narrative is already collapsing. The Washington Post was forced to admit that it couldn't vouch for the validity of its hokey Russian propaganda blacklist. The list that their entire story was based on. A list that included even left-wing websites that were critical of Hillary Clinton. That's why they were included on the list. This, after the first fake news list they put out was discovered to be the brainchild of a far-left social justice warrior feminist with a clear bias. You're not fooling anybody. It's obvious what you're trying to do. You're pointing at opportunists who put out fake news to make money and then lumping them in with INFOWAR's Breitbart Zero Hedge and everyone else to try and discredit us because we kicked your ass. You lost the election, not because of fake news, but because your message failed to resonate with the American people, and ours did. And yes, we may make mistakes from time to time. We're not perfect. The difference is that when you deliberately put out fake news, it leads to death and destruction on an industrial scale. It's your fake news that puts lives at risk time and time again. It was your fake news narrative about Islamophobia that inspired the Ohio State University terrorist to ram his car into and start slashing away at a dozen innocent people. Yet the media expressed 100 times more moral panic about the Pizzagate gunman who injured nobody. It was your fake news narrative about hands up, don't shoot that led to violent riots and looting in Ferguson.
We have dead cops because of that hands up, don't shoot lie. We had 2 in New York. We also had 5 in Dallas and some in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. People who were trying to avenge for the life of Mike Brown, who was a thug. There are dead cops because of that fake news story out of Ferguson, Missouri.
It was your fake news about a deceptively edited audio tape in the Zimmerman case that fueled racial tensions across the country. It was your fake news narrative about 1 in 5 women being raped on college campuses that led to numerous fake news stories about rapes on college campuses that never happened. Hoaxes that ruined people's lives.
And this week, police said they found no evidence to support what Jackie told the magazine about being raped and assaulted.
It was your hysterical fake news narrative about Donald Trump being the next incarnation of Hitler that fueled riots and violent attacks against Trump supporters across the country.
There he goes again. These mass protesters are destroying anything they see.
It was your fake news narrative about Hillary Clinton's victory being inevitable that made you look even more untrustworthy than you already were. Most of the prostitutes pushing this fake news narrative were the same ones caught in bed with the Clinton campaign before the election. The same ones who pushed the fake news narrative that the WikiLeaks emails were fabricated or doctored.
I haven't spent a lot of time reading through WikiLeaks emails, but I will tell you this. What we know is that many are not authentic.
Total BS. Yet the mainstream media gave these prostitutes a platform to push this fake news narrative time and time again. That was you. Not Macedonian teenagers or Kremlin operatives, that was you. As The Intercept reports, this whole fake news bandwagon was actually launched by a Hillary Clinton supporter called Marco Chacon. Chacon specialized in creating blatantly fake anti-Clinton frauds with the goal of tricking his opponents into citing them so that they would be discredited. He was responsible for fabricating the bucket of losers quote. But these prostitutes were so eager to demonize Trump that they started circulating Chacon's fake news as evidence that the Podesta emails were falsified. So we'll be back on the Alex Jones Show live. Don't go away. We are back live on the Alex Jones Show. We've got a special guest coming up in the next hour. He's been on before. He is Bill Mitchell. Again, he was derided by the mainstream media before the election with his certainty that Trump would win, with his certainty that the polls across the board were completely wrong. So we're going to get Bill Mitchell, host of Your Voice Radio, on to talk about this latest smear campaign by the mainstream media, the Russian hack, the fake news, all of it. Trump's picks, whether he's actually draining the swamp or not. Look forward to hearing about that from Bill Mitchell. Before we get back into the news, and by the way, the video you heard before the break was what they're not telling you about fake news. That just went up on YouTube, and it's on INFOWARS.com as of about an hour ago, so get that. Share it. That's a key video in dismantling one of these twin narratives that the mainstream media has pushed in recent weeks to try and delegitimize Trump's presidency. But before we get back into the news, I want to tell you about the exciting new Super Blue fluoride-free toothpaste available at InfoWarsLife.com. Now, this is very interesting because, of course, I've used fluoride-free toothpaste for well over a decade now. We know the debilitating health effects that it has in a cumulative fashion, lowering IQ, all kinds of cancers linked to fluoride again. This is our new Super Blue fluoride-free toothpaste. Research across the board indicates that the health of your gums could contribute to the development of heart disease and heart attacks. When bacteria infects your gums, it could enter the bloodstream and attach to heart-blood vessels, causing blood clots or heart attacks. And that's the key with this Super Blue toothpaste, because it contains the natural oils and ingredients used since biblical times to help wipe out bad bacteria and eliminate bad breath without you losing IQ points. And that's key because a lot of these fluoride-free toothpaste, you will find they're very thin. They don't produce enough foam, so they don't actually work very well. I mean, you have to get a very specific one for it to be fluoride-free and for it to work properly as a toothpaste. So that's what we address with this all-new Super Blue fluoride-free toothpaste. It is available at InfoWarsLife.com. It's got the iodine, it's got the nano silver, and of course it supports this network as we now come under the new attack of being Russian agents working for Vladimir Putin. They've resurrected the corpse of that narrative. So again, we're under massive sustained attack on a daily basis. We need to grow our platform. We need to hire new people. We need new writers, new reporters, just so we can tackle the attacks on us on a daily basis alone. We're out here in the wilderness. We're not funded by dictatorships in the Middle East. We're not funded by globalists like George Soros. We're not funded by giant pharmaceutical companies. We're funded by you right now, listening to this broadcast, buying the products at InfoWarsLife.com. The products that all have independent 5-star reviews. Everyone raves about them. And the latest is the Super Blue fluoride-free toothpaste at InfoWarsLife.com. Let's hit a couple of news stories here. Now, Obama came out yesterday, and we're going to play the clip after the break. He gave an interview with The Daily Show, Trevor Noah, again, which is now more real than most fake news outlets, I guess. And he came out and said that the DNC emails, which of course is what the big hysteria has been about over the past few days, This is undermining our democracy. Russia has hacked our elections. This is terrible. Well, Obama came out last night and said, oh, by the way, those DNC emails, they contained fairly routine stuff, nothing explosive, and were not very interesting. So he's admitting that the supposedly bombshell information that the Russians helped hack, even though there's no evidence of that, which we'll get onto, that information, which supposedly undermined the legitimacy of the election, it was completely routine. He said it was not interesting. He said there was no explosive information in those emails. Well, you can't have it both ways. He's trying to maintain two false narratives at once. We'll be back to talk about it on the Alex Jones Show Live. Don't go away. It's Paul Joseph Watson in for Alex Jones for this hour. Again, we got Bill Mitchell coming up in the next segment. But first, we're going to go to this video. This is President Barack Obama on The Daily Show with Trevor Noah last night talking about the information that was leaked or hacked from the DNC hack. Let's go to this video.
What's happened to our political system where some emails that were hacked and released ended up being the overwhelming story and the constant source of coverage, breathless coverage that was depicted as somehow damning in all sorts of ways, when the truth of the matter was it was fairly routine stuff.
So there you have Obama admitting, counter to this narrative, that this was the dastardly undermining of the U.S. election system, the very bedrock of democracy, that Russia was able to supposedly hack these emails from the DNC. Of course, we know from what Assange told us that Russia was not the source of the leak. The leak was an insider. Former Ambassador Craig Murray met the individual who provided us with that leak. He was not Russian. But you see, this is the problem that Obama has. He can't maintain two false narratives at once. So on the one hand, he has to lie and say that these emails contain no interesting information whatsoever. Of course they did, the Podesta ones even more so. But still, if he claims that, if he claims that there's nothing explosive, that there's nothing of interest in these DNC emails, it was, quote, fairly routine stuff, then how did that influence the election? This is the whole narrative, right? Russia hacked the emails, Russia influenced the election, this is a foreign power intervening in our affairs, this is terrible. But then Obama comes out and says, well, this was nothing. It was fairly routine stuff, not very interesting information. You can't have it both ways. But they're trying to keep so many plates spinning at once that, again, they can't maintain every single false narrative. Now, we had, as I mentioned when I was on the show with Alex earlier, an individual, college student, walk into Trump Tower. This is out of Zero Hedge. College student arrested after carrying weapons into Trump Tower. The 19-year-old college student was arrested after carrying a backpack full of weapons. You're talking about fireworks, a Swiss Army knife, flashlight, handcuffs. They even talked about a garrote used to strangle people that he was carrying around in this bag, trying to get into Trump Tower. When he was caught, he told the police that this was completely routine and that he'd walked into Trump Tower 10 or so prior times with these same weapons. He claims to be a fan of Donald Trump. Is that really believable, given what we've talked about, the mainstream media pushing this hysterical fake news narrative about Donald Trump being a danger to the world, while, of course, simultaneously having moral panic over the Pizzagate gunman who injured absolutely no one, but saying that that could happen again, that our, quote, fake news is going to radicalize violent people, while actual would-be assassins, in the case of Donald Trump, are acting upon the hysterical fake news propaganda that they've been fed by the mainstream media. Case in point, Michael Sanford, the British citizen who tried to assassinate Trump at a Trump rally in Las Vegas, I think it was back in July. You didn't really see much of that story in the mainstream media, did you? Well, no, because it was their fake news narrative that was to blame for that. You had the guy rushing the stage to try and physically assault Trump several months before that. We all remember that clip. Again, far from being castigated, Imagine if the opposite had happened. Imagine if a Trump supporter had tried to physically attack Hillary Clinton on stage while she was giving a speech. Imagine the freak out. Yet this guy was lionized. He was given a platform by CNN and others, despite, again, being radicalized by their fake news narrative. Absolutely amazing as the threats to Trump continue. We'll be back with Bill Mitchell after the break. Don't go away. We are live on the Alex Jones Show, and we're back with a guest who joined us before the election, and it's kind of a triumphant return because he came on, he said the polls were wrong. The polls that said Hillary Clinton was ahead by 5, 6, 7 points in all these different states. He was proven to be completely right. He is Bill Mitchell, host of Your Voice Radio, again, widely credited with being one of the top election influencers on Twitter, and the website is yourvoiceradio.com. Bill, welcome back to the show.
Hi, great to see you again. How are you?
Pretty good, and we're going to get into the serious stuff in a little bit, but I want to get your hot take on Kanye West visiting Trump Tower. This has kind of thrown a lot of people for a loop. Do you think, there's actually any substance in this meeting? Is it just about him performing at the inauguration? Or could it be, as some people have suggested, a kind of 3D chess move from Trump to distract the media from their obsession with Russian hacking?
Well, I think that this is a sign or a side effect of Trump being really the first post-ideological president that I can remember having. I mean, most people go in with a preconceived notion that it's got to be, this set of conservative ideals or this set of liberal ideals. Whereas Trump is what I call a resultist. He's focused on the end result. His mind lives in the future, and he puts the pieces together so they fit into that picture that he's got. And that's why sometimes these moves like Kanye West or something don't make sense to us linear thinkers, because in the moment it's like, what? We don't get it. But it makes sense. Whatever Donald Trump has got in his mind, that Make America Great picture, somehow Kanye West fits into that. And I think that Kanye West just probably looks at Donald Trump and says, hey, here's a sharp, competent guy, made a lot of money. There's a lot of things about him that I admire. And I'm going to look past the fact that I'm not supposed to like Republicans and go in and have a sit down with this guy. So I think it's great. Trump has shown us that he's willing to sit down and talk with pretty much anybody. And I think that's great compared to Obama's response during the healthcare debate, where he told Republicans needed to get into the back of the bus, which was very unfortunate phrasing on his part. But I think this is a good sign.
Well, I mean, as the late, great Andrew Breitbart said, politics is downstream from culture. A lot of people don't get their news from the nightly news. They don't get it from newspapers, thank God. They get it from celebrities. They get it from entertainment news. So again, this can only be a positive step. Again, I think Trump is way ahead of any Republican president to be before him in reaching out to people like Kanye West. Of course, Twitter has reacted with complete revulsion. The left is openly using racial slurs once again against Kanye West because he met with Trump, proving once more that, people of color who just even dare to express or even threaten to express a difference of opinion are immediately seized upon by the left, once again proving the left is completely intolerant.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, to the far left, progressivism is the truth. That is the ultimate truth. And facts really have no meaning. Facts are only true to the progressives if they support progressivism. If they don't, if they're just completely made up things out of thin air, but they support progressivism, then they become true. This is how these people can live with themselves. This is how they can constantly lie to us and go to sleep at night, go home to their families and not feel like bad people because they feel like they're serving the greater truth. And then when Kanye West goes from being a Democrat or a liberal or a progressive champion and all of a sudden opens his mind to Donald Trump, then Kanye West is no longer part of the greater progressive truth, and therefore he becomes a lie. So that's the way they look at things. They like to put people in baskets. They talk about Republicans profiling. We're not the ones profiling. It's the Democrats. It's Hillary Clinton that talked about the basket of deplorables. They're always wanting to put people in groups. And, Donald Trump looks at people as individuals. He's like, you know what? I'm going to give you the best playing field, the best opportunity as an individual to prosper in this country. I'm not guaranteeing you're going to win, but I'm going to give you an opportunity to win if you're willing to try hard and do a good job. And so this is a whole new way of looking at things. And I think it's a Big Tent approach, and I think it's attracting a lot of people that aren't, wedded to the whole progressive idea.
Exactly. It's about, not preaching to the choir. There's been speculation of an informal outreach role for Kanye West. We'll see what happens with that. The media is freaking out about it, of course, as they do with absolutely everything that Trump says or does. Let's move on to Russia, though, because we played the clip before the break. Obama gave an interview with The Daily Show last night in which he said that the information revealed by the DNC leak was, quote, fairly routine stuff. He said it was not interesting. He said there was no, quote, explosive content in those emails. Yet we have the flip side of the narrative, which was that Russia supposedly hacking this information completely undermined and influenced the election. Well, you can't have it both ways, Obama. But Bill, first your take on, the regurgitation of this old Russian hacking smear and Obama's seeming flip-flop that the DNC leaks contained routine stuff anyway. So how could that have influenced the election?
Right. It's actually, it's funny, but the media keeps referring to our fake news, hashtag fake news. And I came up with a new hashtag on Twitter yesterday, baked news. Baked, not fake. And this is what the media does, they cook up these concoctions. And it's just, you can just see these people around a table in a smoke-filled room smoking cigars, and it's like, hey, what if we try this? Well, how about this, And, this whole Russian thing didn't really become a story until it became clear the recounts were failing. The recounts were a nothing burger. And then they came up with this. So it's just one thing after another. They try things and try things and try things, but they don't understand that Donald Trump is 10 steps ahead of them. They're responding to what's happening right now. They're thinking in the moment. Donald Trump is way, way ahead. And so that's why none of this stuff works. As a matter of fact, it's almost like the political theory of relativity, that every action has an equal and opposite reaction. And it seems like no matter what these people do to oppose Trump, it ends up benefiting him. For instance, the recounts. Okay, the recounts ended up benefiting Trump because it showed that there was no Russian hacking. The media could have run with the Russian hacking thing of the vote in Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania for Trump's entire term. But because they did the recount, they're like, no, there's no cheating. So it validated his win in those blue wall states. So, this was meant to tear Trump down and ended up benefiting him. And this Russian thing does the same thing. And so what Democrats are really doing here is they're beclowning themselves by hooking onto whatever little butterfly flies by that looks like it might hurt Trump. And they're just making themselves look like fools for 2018 when they're at risk of losing a supermajority to the Republicans. So, this Russian story is not going to go anywhere. It's not going to change any electors' minds. Like I said, it's just baked news, and people are onto them now.
Well, everybody freaks out about it, and to some extent, I think we should freak out just to counter their narrative. I think that's what a lot of people did with the recount. They thought this could be swayed, this could be manipulated. Of course, it ended up with Trump was ahead by over 500 votes in Wisconsin after the recount. The one in Pennsylvania failed. The one in Michigan failed. So as he said, that failed. The death threats to electoral members failed. The riots have failed. So this is just their latest play. I think it's of concern given that you've got people like, Lindsey Graham, John McCain coming out now, spinning this narrative, which they're going to do over the next 7 days, of trying to pressure electoral members into changing their vote. We've got 10 of them, but only one Republican demanding to see intelligence on this. Of course, we know it doesn't exist. It's completely trumped up. The FBI says it's fuzzy and ambiguous. The Office of the Director of National Intelligence says it has a lack of evidence. So do you think this is going to be successful in changing any members of the Electoral College as we head towards this vote on December 19th?
No, not at all. Not at all. I'll tell you why. And this is, over the last 100 years, you've only had singleton electors that changed their vote, and none of these had an effect on the outcome, and they were just protest votes. They did. It was like, oh, I'm just one guy, I can make a protest here, it doesn't matter. But what people need to realize is that these people that are chosen as electors tend to be real political junkies. These are people very involved in politics at the state level. They want to have a future in politics, okay? And one of the most important things, if you want to have a future in politics, is your credibility, your trustworthiness. And if somebody becomes a faithless elector, they are basically flushing their political future down the drain. And for what? You know, it's not going to make a difference. So what's going to happen is when it becomes clear, when we get to the electoral college vote, that there aren't 38 electors that are going to flip, because there won't be. It's just impossible. There aren't going to be 38 electors. Nobody is going to flush their career, their political career, down the toilet to make a political statement, except for maybe this guy, you know, Supron in Texas, who seems like a plant anyway, because he's using a liberal think tank and a marketing firm to back him. So, you know, I don't think this guy was ever really Republican in the first place. But yeah, I think this is going to go just like, remember at the convention, we heard a week before the convention, oh, there were 28, 30, 40 delegates that were ready to flip on Trump. And it ended up being like 2, you know, because when it comes to, people can say they're going to do these things, but it really comes down to it. And there are really consequences. And people are really saying, yeah, if I do this, my career in politics is over, because nobody will ever trust me again. Because, you know, most of these delegates, even if it's legal for them to flip in their state, they've signed pledges that they will vote for the winner, right? So, yeah, I mean, their credibility is gone. You might as well just, you know, erase their entire resumes and put big fat liar on there, you know? So I don't think there's any concern at all. I think this is, once again, much ado about nothing. You know, it's a tale told by a fool full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. And I think that's what's going to turn out.
I agree. I mean, you've got Michael Moore going on, you know, nightly shows, again, trying to fan the flames of hysteria. I think that's what it is. They're trying to create this hysterical attitude amongst people that, you know, the Russian hack thing is devastating. It's going to undermine everything. They're trying to intimidate, force people into changing their votes. It hasn't worked with their other plays. It's not going to work again. We'll be back with Bill Mitchell on the Alex Jones Show live after the break. Don't go away. We are back on the Alex Jones Show live. We're going to go back to Bill Mitchell of YourVoiceRadio.com here in a moment. First, I want to tell you about the Christmas specials at InfoWarsLife.com. Again, a massive raft of discounts right in time for Christmas. You still have time to get these as gifts. Again, InfoWarsLife.com. Living Defense, 30% off. Silver Bullet Colloidal Silver, 50% off. That's half price for a limited time only. Brain Force Plus, 30% off. Again, that's what I take before I do the show. Has excellent effects in terms of enhancing cognitive ability. Now they've got the Brain Force Plus, 30% off. That's huge. Winter Sun Vitamin D. I need a bit of that right now. 25% off. Survival Shield X2, 30% off. And Bio True Selenium, 30% off. Free store-wide shipping. Free shipping on everything. If you order today, you get guaranteed delivery by Christmas. And more importantly, you support this network, which is under attack, under assault by the mainstream fake news media every single day, to the point where we can't even keep up with it anymore. Because we're winning and they're butthurt about it. That's why they're having to go on the offensive, refusing to actually have an ounce of self-awareness and think about why they lost the narrative, why their rhetoric doesn't resonate with the American people, and why ours does. We're under attack constantly. We need your support. Free store-wide shipping on all those massive Christmas super sale specials at InfoWarsLife.com. We've got a few minutes here before the break with Bill Mitchell. Bill, let's switch gears a little bit. We talked about hysteria on the left. Let's talk about a little bit of hysteria on the right, because there's been a lot of what I call flouncing on the right over Trump's, you know, rhetoric, his appointments. We've had people who've supported Trump for, you know, the best part of 18 months suddenly vowing to withdraw their support because they have a knee-jerk reaction to something they don't like. I mean, you've called a lot of these people out on Twitter. These people who supported Trump, who flip out at anything he does that they don't like and say, I refuse to support him anymore before he even gets in office, what would your message to those people?
Yeah, we elected, let me put it this way. We elected Donald Trump for his judgment and his instincts, okay? And if these appointments mean that he has bad judgment and bad instincts, that individual appointment will be the least of our problems, okay? We are if Donald Trump has got bad judgment and bad instincts, we are completely and utterly screwed, okay? But he doesn't. He has great judgment. He has great instincts. So trust the fact that when he is considering these various people, he has more information than you do. You know, sometimes when people say no to something, actually, whenever somebody says no to something, there's one or two things happening. Either they really don't want to do it or they don't have enough information to say yes. And in these cases, Donald Trump has got more information about these people than you do. In addition, he is looking at each of these people in his cabinet not as an individual piece that has to stand on its own, but as part of a larger picture that will all work together. He's hiring very highly competent, sharp people that can hit the ground running and get, remember these words, get results. This is going to be a new type of Republican administration. This isn't going to be a stamp your feet, wave your arms, we'll get them next time administration. This is going to be your results now administration. And so he's hired people that have got a track record of results. And this is why, even when he was considering Mitt Romney as Secretary of State, I said on Twitter, I said, well, you know, if he picks Mitt Romney, I'll back the pick because I trust the man's judgment. But I don't think he will, because Mitt Romney does not have, at least over the last decade or so, a track record of winning. You know, this is not a guy that wins. And Trump wants people that have got a track record of winning and succeeding. And I think that that's one of the things that he's looking for in these cabinet picks. So, and he's got a broad spectrum of folks. I think this may be the wealthiest cabinet we've ever had in history. And these people are walking away from very, very lucrative jobs to serve America in these roles. So I'm excited about it. I mean, I think it's going to be wonderful. And this is why I recommend to folks, listen, if he makes a cabinet pick you don't like, just, you know, I mean, go out there and say, yeah, Mr. Trump, I don't like this cabinet pick. Get on Twitter and say, I don't care for this personality, but don't get yourselves into the trap of doubting Trump himself, because what will happen is you'll find out that cabinet pick was great or that he didn't make it at all, and you'll end up having to walk it back and looking like a fool. Okay, you want to be big on Twitter, be consistent. And if you're back and forth, one day you love him, the next day you hate him, one day you love him, people can stop listening to you. You know, so be consistent, and let's give this guy time. Give him 100 days. Let's get back to 100 days after he takes office and see how these picks work out. I think it's going to blow people away. I don't want to give a soliloquy here, but let me throw one more thing in. One of the things.
Okay, Bill, let's go to the break. Just hold that thought. Let's hit the next break. We're going to talk about Mitt Romney. We're going to talk about the appointments so far, and we'll be back live on the Alex Jones Show with Bill Mitchell. Don't go away. It's Paul Joseph Watson in for Alex Jones. We're talking to Bill Mitchell of YourVoiceRadio.com. Now, before the break, Bill, we were getting into this, again, this flouncing on the right. We saw it with Mitt Romney, even though he wasn't selected in the end, which, you know, proves that Trump listened to his base. But even the suggestion of it caused many people to just completely flip out, say they were abandoning the entire Trump train altogether before he even gets into office. Just finish the thought you were making before the break there.
Yeah, it's crazy because in my response to these people, and some of these people were big name people. I don't mind going up against big name people if I, disagree with them. And, our response is, so what exactly are you going to do for the next 4 years? Just sit in the corner and, cry and eat potato chips while we make America great again? I mean, come on. This presidency is bigger than just one cabinet position. It's bigger than just one policy. This is an entire sea change in the way America does business. Don't miss out on this because, as you use the expression for, you got butthurt over one position you disagree with. Because remember, we elected Donald Trump president. We didn't elect whoever is having this problem, this pundit president. So it's not up to Donald Trump to do what they say. It's up to Donald Trump to use his judgment to do what he thinks he should do to lead this country. And fortunately, he surrounded himself by absolutely brilliant people. Donald Trump has got so many good people around him, so many good operational people around him, that it will free him up to travel the globe, selling the American brand, being the face of this new "Make America Great Again" message that we're putting out there. And I think that's what he wants to do. He's a marketing guy. He wants to brand. He wants to market. He wants to be out there. So he's got enough operational people around him where he doesn't have to get too tied up in the day-to-day minutia of what's going on. He's got Pence. He's got all these other great people at very high levels. So I'm excited about it. And, you know, I think this is buying him some insurance with the Electoral College because he's done such a competent job that even people that may have doubted him before were like, well, you know, he seems like he's doing okay. And also the carrier thing. To me, the carrier air conditioner thing was like when Ronald Reagan fired the air traffic controllers. You know, people forget, I was around back then, that when Ronald Reagan first took office, he wasn't doing very well at the beginning. You know, he was being treated kind of badly. And then, you know, he was just some movie star, you know, a B movie star, and now he's president. And then when the air traffic controllers went on strike, he went in there and said, oh, really? You're going on strike? You're fired. You know? And they were like, oh, no, we want to negotiate. He's like, oh, no, you're fired. And all of a sudden, you know, he earned his you know, badassery credentials. He earned his tough guy credentials. And from then on, people always said, you know, if he says he's going to do something, he's going to do it. And I think Donald Trump earned a lot of goodwill with that carrier move, even though it's just 1,000 jobs. You know, it earned a lot of goodwill. So I think those things are going to protect him in the Electoral College because really it comes down to the will of the people. And I think the will of the people is behind him right now. One last thing, you know, investor confidence off the charts right now. They just had a new poll of small business confidence off the charts right now. I mean, people are excited about this presidency, and we're not going to have a couple turncoats out there turn this around. So I'm not worried about the electoral college at all.
No, and I mean, the point is he's not in office. He's laid out this 100-day contract with the American people. At least give him 100 days. I mean, throwing the baby out with the bathwater, I've seen it so many times, especially on Twitter. But I will get to this, and this, I think, is, you know, it's more of a legitimate criticism that's been leveled by some. Mitt Romney's out. Trump listened to his base. That's great. But now we have Rex Tillerson, ExxonMobil CEO. He's the Secretary of State. We got Steven Mnuchin, ex-Goldman Sachs. You know, this charge has been made. I want to get your response to it. How can Trump be draining the swamp while recruiting what many would consider establishment insiders like Tillerson and Mnuchin?
Well, you know, I compare it to, you know, ancient man had a problem with wolves. You know, wolves would attack and eat them. They'd attack and eat the sheep. And they could have just killed all the wolves. But, you know, and they killed some. But some they turned into, you know, man's best friend. And this is what happens when you drain the swamp, too, is some of the alligators you got to kill. But some of them, you know, you can train to work for you. And I think that is one of the things that Donald Trump is doing is he's, you know, I think Abraham Lincoln said, do I not defeat my enemies when I make them my friends? And I think that that's what he's doing is he's taking people that have got skills and he's showing them that his leadership is the way. This is one thing that a great negotiator does. A great negotiator shows their opponent that it is in their own best interest to follow their leadership. You know, this is much better because the alternative to what Trump is doing would be to have an insurgency with all these people attacking him and blocking his agenda. You know, if these people, if he feels like he can trust these people and they've got the right skill sets, then much better to have them on Trump's team with a changed attitude, a changed idea. You know, entire governments and countries have been formed just on an idea. America was formed on an idea. And if they believe in Donald Trump's idea for America, you can take somebody who was formerly an enemy and turn them into a great asset. And I think that's what he's doing. And the fact that these are big-time power players, awesome. You know, one of the best things about a power player is their you know, Rolodex, the people they know. They have the contacts to get things done, to cut through the red tape. They've got the friendships, the relationships. So, yeah, I'm excited. I'm very excited. And, you know, let's give him 100 days. Even if, you know, you don't like a particular pick, like I said, say something about it. Donald Trump, double-blind test. You know, he puts ideas out there. He wants to hear back from people to, I'm sorry, he wants to hear back from people to see what they think. So that's good. But don't you know, jump off the Trump train over because you're just going to end up looking foolish because you're going to get back on when you see all the good stuff happening. So just try to remain faithful. You know, have some belief in the guy. You elected him. Remember why you elected him. And, you know, just let's be unified. This is the one thing the media is trying to do and the Democrats are trying to do is break our unity. So if we can maintain our unity, we have really defeated their entire purpose. That's their last best chance. is to defeat us. They can't defeat us from the outside. They tried. They can only defeat us from the inside. So if we remain strong and united inside, even if you have a doubt here or there, you know, I mean, face it, after 8 years of getting 0% of what I want, I'm perfectly happy getting 80% of what I want from a president. If there's a few things that Trump does that I disagree with, whatever. I'm getting 80% of what I want, and I'm ecstatic.
Now, I want to move on to fake news because, of course, we've had this stunning lack of self-awareness amongst the media. They were caught in bed with the Clinton campaign. They were caught in their complicity. They were caught pushing fake news, fake narratives the entire election cycle. You know, Hillary Clinton, 98% inevitable to become president. Their already crumbling trust that the American people had in them collapsed even further. Their first reaction was not self-analysis, was not to look in the mirror. It was to lash out at everybody else, accuse them of being fake news. Of course, there is actual fake news. There are websites that put out completely concocted headlines to make advertising dollars. That is separate from having a different opinion, from having dissident true news like, you know, INFOWAR's, Breitbart, Zero Hedge, whoever you want to mention. Obviously, it was an attempt to censor us, right? This is their attempt to put teeth into what's going through Congress right now with the banning the Russian propaganda and what's happening in Silicon Valley with Facebook and Twitter now adopting this fake news list. The two that have been released so far, the first one was cooked up by a far-left feminist professor. That was adopted wholesale before we exposed it. The second list has been completely debunked as coming out of a neocon organization, again, completely shadowy. The Washington Post had to back away, said they couldn't vouch for the validity of it. Yeah, we've got Hillary Clinton coming out and saying, this is going to cause innocent people to be killed. Isn't that rich, Bill, given that she blamed innocent people being killed in Benghazi on a YouTube video, which was, in and of itself, the biggest act of fake news you could ever wish to imagine.
It's incredible. You know, it's amazing to sit here and watch the left self-immolate, you know, and basically pour the can of gas on their heads and light themselves on fire on a daily basis. You're just, you know, just like, we almost don't even need to criticize them anymore. And, you know, Obama talked about shovel-ready jobs. Well, he finally came through with shovel-ready jobs, and that's the DNC, because they've got a big old shovel, and they are just digging and digging and digging. And they're trying to position themselves to win back Congress in 2018, but it's just going to have the opposite effect. They're making clowns of themselves. And this is, you know, the reason why Hillary Clinton lost is historically, yeah, there's a lot of reasons. Historically, it would have been almost impossible for her to basically earn a third term for Obama. Over the last 6 times that there's been an opportunity for that, it's only worked once, and that was with Reagan, and he was very popular when he was reelected. So, you know, the fact that Obama was won reelection with fewer votes than he was originally elected, I mean, historically, it would have been almost impossible for Hillary to win this election. But, you know, it's just the problem they have is their entire philosophy, the progressive philosophy, is broken. They tried it. You know, Dr. Obama cured us of liberalism as a country by implementing it fully. You know, he really exposed it for what it was, and we were like, we don't like this, you know? It sounds great when you give great speeches, but when you do it, it kind of is awful. And so they, you know, people want results. People want to be special. Americans want to think of themselves as a big deal. We want to think of ourselves as special. We want to think of ourselves as the lighthouse on the hill. We don't want to be average. We don't want to be bowing to other leaders of other countries, you know? And this is what Trump is tied into. They say that your personal happiness is a measure of what your life is like compared to what you expect it to be like. Well, Americans expect themselves to be special, and when we don't feel special, we're unhappy. You know, this is why 73% of Americans in a poll before the election were unhappy with the direction of the country, because America wasn't making them feel like they want to feel. And this is what's exciting about Trump, especially once we start to get some results, is that Trump is going to make us feel how, as Americans, we want to feel. And that's self-actualization. And when people achieve self-actualization and tie it to an individual, they defend them, because that individual sort of becomes them, becomes their voice. And that's what Trump said, I am your voice. So, yeah, this is a very powerful thing that the Democrats are up against. I don't know what they're going to do. Honestly, I think they're basically just done. You know,
I mean, Do you think, I mean, of course, Trump had the temerity to say America first and that he would put Americans' interests first. God forbid, that completely triggered the mainstream media and the left. But yeah, that's what I was thinking about. I mean, what is the left going to do? Are they going to have to come back with their next move and kind of rebrand themselves as a populist movement, this kind of Bernie Sanders brand? Is that even going to work? Do they have the setup to accomplish that? I mean, is that the only direction in which they can go now?
They have their only reaction will be to go further left. That's the only life raft they've got. And the problem is they've got no bench now. You know, people don't talk much about the local government and state governments, but we control, I think, almost 75% of state legislatures now. That's the bench where you develop, that's the minor leagues where you develop your national leaders. Democrats don't have anything. They've got nobody. You know, the average age of the congressional leadership is in the mid-70s. They're literally dying out. And they have nobody to come in and replace them. No future stars. There is no, Barack Obama Part 2 coming up in the party. And they're in trouble. And I think the average age of Republican leadership now is like 45 or 50 years old. It's just crazy. So here's the ultimate irony, is that the Republican Party has become the party of youth. Who would have ever figured that, right? But it has, and we're winning millennials over. I mean, I've got a millennial DJ from New Jersey that is one of my co-hosts on Thursday night. Great guy. I've had other guest hosts that are millennials. I mean, people are tired of living in their parents' basement. They're tired of getting out of college and not being able to pay their bills and their loans. People want to win, and it's just with Donald Trump. It's not just an idea, it's not just a philosophy, but they actually see an opportunity that, okay, maybe I can actually win here. And that starts to catch on. So I don't know what the Democrats are going to do. And, one of the big pushes of Trump is going to be urban renewal. And I keep referring to that as the last blue wall. Okay, we broke down the blue wall in the Rust Belt, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. Inner cities are the last blue wall. And if we can give those people real hope, hope that's based on action and change and a real sense of future and better education and a better place to live, clearing, I work with Bill Pulte, and he's clearing out neighborhoods. He's got the Blight Authority, which is going into neighborhoods and clearing. I think he cleared out like 10 or 20 city blocks in Detroit recently. This is going to be their last stronghold, and we're going right for the heart of it. And not by some political game or some speech, but by, solving these people's problems. So I'm excited, and I feel sorry for those guys, for the Democrats.
No, exactly. I mean, it's about going into these communities and giving them some hope. I mean, what was Hillary offering them? The same old story, stuck in the ghetto, dependent on government. What kind of hope does that give to anybody? So, yeah, and you've got the other factor, which, of course, is, Trump felt like a form of rebellion. Conservatism is now the new counterculture. When every facet of the establishment is lined up against something, then that something becomes the new counterculture. And that's why you said, a lot of young people are coming on board now. The flip side is we had a poll today, only 13% of Democrats are enthusiastic about their party's future. So they're in big trouble. Final couple of minutes in this segment, though, I just wanted to get onto Twitter. We've seen a lot of pro-Trump accounts banned by Twitter recently. You've been criticized, I've been criticized by elements of the alt-right for suggesting that it's not exactly a smart idea to constantly be fighting with Twitter's policies. Just speak to that, because I know you've tweeted about it recently.
Yeah, I've talked to Jack, the CEO, and I said, Jack, listen, I know your politics are different than mine, but I just want to say thanks for giving me this platform. You could have cut me off at any moment. I've been a big voice for Trump in this election. I think I've made a difference in this election. You could have cut me off any time, and you didn't. You let me be on there. And I just appreciate it. My philosophy is, never complain about the cook's cooking when you're still eating, And here's the thing, folks, Twitter is free. It's their house. They don't have to do anything for you. Okay, it's not like they're controlled by the government. They have to offer you this and they have to offer you that. They make their own rules. So don't poke them in the eye. If you want to go after the Democrats, go after the Democrats. If you want to go after Hillary, go after Hillary. But, don't be slamming Twitter on Twitter. It's just stupid. Come on, use your noodle, right? If you want to complain about Go over and complain about them on Facebook. Don't complain on Twitter. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I think where it crosses the line is what we've seen in Europe, where Twitter and Facebook are teaming up with governments to then hunt down people and give them home visits from the police for making, comments critical of migrant policy. So I think that's when it crosses the line, when they characterize legitimate dissent as hate speech and then work with the government to oppress people. But, that's slightly different from Twitter's own internal policies. But we'll be back with the final segment with Bill Mitchell. This is the Alex Jones Show Live, breaking news at INFOWARS.com. Don't go away. We'll be back. We're live. It's the final segment of the Alex Jones Show. Going to go back to Bill Mitchell here in a second, but just want to direct you to our Christmas super sale specials at InfoWarsLife.com. We have Living Defense, 30% off, Silver Bullet, colloidal silver, 50% off, and store-wide free shipping on everything. Brain Force Plus, 30% off. Again, huge discounts at InfoWarsLife.com. Guaranteed delivery by Christmas if you order today. We also have Super Blue fluoride-free toothpaste. Exciting new product at InfoWarsLife.com. Again, you should be using fluoride-free toothpaste anyway. I've been using it for well over a decade. Why not get it at InfoWarsLife.com? Again, has a special formula where it actually works, unlike a lot of fluoride-free toothpaste, which doesn't froth up properly. This one works, keeps your breath fresh, it's healthy, and it supports this network as we're constantly attacked by the mainstream media on a daily basis. Free store-wide shipping on everything right now at InfoWarsLife.com. Bill Mitchell, we have a couple of minutes left here. Final comment, and just tell people where they can find you on Twitter and how they can hear your show.
Sure. You can reach Your Voice Radio in a couple different places. You can find us on Spreaker, which is our audio feed, at www.Spreaker. That's like speaker with an R after the P, Spreaker.com /user/Mitchell VII. And we are on there. We have a 1-hour show on there Sunday night through Thursday night. You can listen to us at 8 p.m. or anytime thereafter. And we do pre-tape at 6 and upload the show at 8. So even if you get in late, you can just jump on in there and start right at the beginning. You don't miss anything. So that's really good. We also have a YouTube version of our show, which if you just go to YouTube and search on Bill Mitchell, you can follow my channel. I'll come up as the #1 under Bill Mitchell. And we've been on the air for about 6 months now, and just surpassed a total of 1.2 million plays. So we're happy about that. Getting started as a podcast is a slog. It's hard. And we've just been very, very successful, and we really appreciate our listeners for that. You can also follow me on Twitter at Mitchell VII. I think I have about 165,000 followers now. In the 24 hours of the election night, my Twitter feed did 88 million hits and 400,000 retweets. So we got a lot going on in that Twitter feed. So definitely check that out. And also you can visit us at yourvoiceradio.com. So.
Okay, and again, follow Bill on Twitter because he's an absolute powerhouse. He's on top of all the breaking news. An excellent follow on Twitter, and that's why he's been named over and over again as one of the top election influencers. It's yourvoiceradio.com. Bill, thanks for joining us today.
I tell you, man, I love being on your show. It's always fascinating, so thank you.
All right, good to have you. We'll have you back in the near future. There goes Bill Mitchell, again, yourvoiceradio.com. Final minute here of the Alex Jones Show. Let's hit a couple of news headlines. Merkel's party says Putin would like to see her fall in 2017. Well, what do you know? Now Angela Merkel is blaming Vladimir Putin for her cratering popularity numbers. Of course, it has nothing whatsoever to do with the fact that she's brought in over 1 million Muslim migrants over the past year, that her policies are completely failing, that Germans are afraid to go out in the streets, that they have terrorists being caught every week now in major German cities. No, nothing to do with that. That's not why Angela Merkel's popularity is plummeting. It's because of Vladimir Putin. Again, they haven't even had the election. The election's not for 3 months, and they're already getting in their excuses ahead of time, with Angela Merkel now blaming Vladimir Putin. We've got other stories. The FBI says the CIA's Russian hacking assessment is basically fluff. We have another intel agency saying the same thing. These twin narratives of fake news and Russian hacking are collapsing within 48, 72 hours of the mainstream media putting them out. We are winning. They will be defeated. Stay tuned for the 4th hour of The Alex Jones Show. Breaking news at Infowars.com.
And welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. You have now entered overdrive. I am Leanne McAdoo taking the wheel. Owen Schroyer here riding shotgun. We have got a jam-packed show for you today. I mean, we want to kind of dig down into this. Of course, what the heck is going on with these intelligence agencies? Talk about a coup. It seems like they're all kind of fighting with each other. Bringing up, of course, the fact these are the same intelligence agencies that told us there was weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. They're now telling us, of course, Russia hacked into our elections, and we should just go ahead and start World War III without getting to the bottom of things or without demanding proof of these conspiracy theories that are going around. So we'll talk about that, and of course, the confusion. We want to talk about Obama, of course, blaming anything he possibly can, fake news, Putin, racism. Just not the fact that he was an awful president. We're not going to talk about that. We'll get into a little bit about self-driving cars, how Uber has, its employees have been using some of its technology to stalk celebrities, politicians, and their exes, of course. But we were assured they weren't spying on any of us years ago. And then, of course, here's a good story. This one, I believe, comes out of Bloomberg. Scientists want to give the atmosphere an antacid to relieve climate change. And here the subheadline says, it won't solve the underlying problem, but geoengineering may have just gotten a bit safer. So we're going to get into that because right here, Bloomberg, not only did they just admit that geoengineering does exist and that it's happening, but that it might not be that safe. Owen. Fake news, man. Fake news.
Well, I love this story. I actually had this. We didn't coordinate all of our stories coming on, but I had that story in front of me too. And I always love this when you talk about geoengineering and climate change. Okay, so I'm supposed to believe in anthropogenic climate change, right? I mean, it's human behavior that is affecting climate change. But I'm supposed to ignore the human behavior that is geoengineering when discussing climate change. It's the most hypocritical, backwards type of thinking I've ever heard of. But it'll be interesting to see how they respond to this, considering, you know, again, just another example of them putting it right in front of our face.
Well, that it doesn't exist. And that's the thing that makes me so frustrated about it, is that you're seeing these trails being made in the sky. They're not your typical contrails that an airplane will make. But yet they're
fake news.
Totally gaslighting us. We see it with our own eyes. People have taken pictures and videos. They've collected the stuff that's fallen down from the sky.
Mm-hmm.
And yet still, it's fake news. It doesn't exist. Everyone just...
Yeah, there's the image right there. That's normal.
You're all going crazy. You're all... No wonder the world is in such a state, because we're being massively lied to on a huge scale by the mainstream media, who has now tried to hijack this CIA talking point that everything they don't agree with is fake news. So we're going to get into that a little bit more because, of course, Trump has ruffled some feathers with his EPA pick. But I want to end this segment before we go to break on this story that was kind of near and dear to my heart. And guys, if you can pull up my Twitter page, I actually pulled a piece from the Wonder Woman, the creator of Wonder Woman, and why he created Wonder Woman, because he wanted to give young girls a powerful role model who also embodied feminine qualities, because, you know, young girls weren't wanting to be feminine because they weren't tough. They needed someone that could match Superman. Well, now the UN has decided to end Wonder Woman's role as an honorary ambassador because she's attractive and she's white. And this made too many people upset. They had planned to use Wonder Woman in an honorary role in an empowerment campaign to fight for gender equality. It prompted criticism that the choice sent the wrong messages because Wonder Woman is too white, she's too attractive, her boobs are too big,
Wait a second.
She's too physically fit, she's not a good role model.
She doesn't even exist. What? This is a fictional character.
She's too upsetting. Too many people are triggered. All right, well, stick around. We'll talk about that and so much more right after this. Government cover-ups. Seems like that is what we are absolutely talking about so much right now, for sure, in this segment. just this massive pushback to label everything as fake news with what the government disagrees with, the establishment media, the corporate media, whatever you want to call them. And now we've got the president coming out saying this as well. Paul Joseph Watson alluded to the fact that Angela Merkel, of course, a total failed leader there in Germany, the election is months away, and she's already ramping up this idea that Putin is going to involve himself in their election. Merkel's party says Putin would like to see her fall in 2017. Oh, that rascal Putin. He's just trying to take everybody down.
They're like, it's like they're unintentionally building Vladimir Putin up as like the greatest
great destroyer.
Yeah, like the biggest threat to the globalists, the biggest threat to the liberal establishment right now. And he's just sitting over here in Russia, just kind of like minding his own business, like trying to figure out, how he can help Russia, and he's kind of looking around like, what? I fixed the U.S. election? What? I'm fixing the German election? Oh, this is a bunch of bullcrap.
Who knew those memes going around where he was like topless on his horse and stuff, or like wrestling a bear and everything? I mean, the memes really built him up.
It's about as real as Wonder Woman.
Exactly. That's a ridiculous story. So here's a story coming out of the Washington Examiner. The press is being encouraged to turn up the heat on Trump. So they're really trying to cheer on these reporters to say it's time to challenge President-elect Trump and his team, as if they haven't been doing that for the entire time since 2015, since he announced he was going to run, since he made it clear that the gloves were off and he wasn't going to hold back, he wasn't going to play their nice little games. And he calls the press out for how they are and they're biased. And so then they've been attacking him the entire time. Anything he does, any of his picks, staff picks for his top positions, everything. So now all of a sudden, the press is saying, we should do our job. We should go ahead and check the people who are in power, because, of course, these WikiLeaks that we're not supposed to look at, because it's not about the contents of the WikiLeaks. It's the fact that the Russians allegedly leaked them. But the contents of the WikiLeaks, of course, revealed that the entire media was in collusion there with Hillary Clinton's campaign, with the Democrats. They were giving her debate questions. They were all admittedly hacks for her to get her in. So they were not doing their job this entire time, but now all of a sudden that it's Donald Trump, they're saying we need to start checking power once again, which is the job of the press.
Well, how do you turn up the heat on Donald Trump?
Any hotter.
I mean, last I remember, during the entire election cycle, the media was attacking Trump relentlessly, day in and day out. And how much of those attacks actually stuck? None of them. None of them stuck. So I guess that's what they're alluding to, is we need to figure out what can actually stick to Donald. But here we go again now. David Brock has said that he wants to create some sort of a left-wing Breitbart operation, I guess, because Correct the Record and Media Matters has completely flopped and failed. But David Brock said the press are animals, and it says that Dems need to be tougher with the media. What exactly is he talking about? David Brock, founder of Media Matters and groups like Correct the Record, also you know what, just go ahead and look at his campaign financing and see if there's a little sketchy activity there. He spoke with Politico's Glenn Thrush on his off-message podcast to reflect on the 2016 election. And Brock was upset at the way the media covered Hillary Clinton versus Donald Trump. He's complaining, saying that the media coverage of Hillary Clinton's scandals overshadowed more important pieces of news. All you heard on the media was everything Donald Trump has done over the last 40 years. If Donald Trump swatted a fly in the 4th grade, you were going to hear about it as Donald Trump hates flies.
All of her scandals were washed.
But again, what of these attacks of Donald Trump has actually stuck? If any of them have stuck, I'd say maybe the audit. We continue to hear people say the audit, oh, he hasn't released his audit. Okay, maybe there's something to that. Racist, failed. Misogynist, failed. Xenophobic, failed. They all failed. So what are they going to do next? How can they turn up the heat?
Well, because he's a Russian agent.
And I guess that's what it is then. So now it's just he's a Russian agent. Anybody that likes Trump is a Russian agent. And who are you, David Brock? Who are you an agent for? Last time I checked, I looked into all the circle of campaign donations and the operations you're running. I don't know. It looks like you might be guilty of money laundering. I'm not the one that investigates this kind of stuff, but it's awfully sketchy to me how you skim off the top of these campaign donations as they get funneled throughout all of your circle of contribution headquarters. So, but hey, maybe David Brock, you know, I don't know what's going on with David Brock.
Of hair gel for that wicked.
I was just going to say, maybe
got going on,
maybe that hair gel is starting to sink into that brain of his and causing some brain damage because, or he's just totally in the tank for Hillary, which is probably the true case.
Well, of course he is. Media Matters is a Clinton mouthpiece.
And so he's got to do anything he can to try to demonize Donald Trump, step up pressure on the media, as if anybody's scared what Correct the Record is going to say.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
actually,
let me tell you.
Why don't you actually correct the record? Well, let's talk about how dangerous this is. I know we've been talking about how completely dangerous this is. Hillary Clinton was willing, you know, in her campaign to take it to World War III with Russia, and we were all saying, what the heck is going on? Why would anyone be voting for someone who's actively trying to walk us into World War III? But they've lost, they're not backing down, and so now they're just saying, well, absolutely, Russia hacked the election, and, you know, people are on Twitter demanding that we do something about it, demanding that we take military action against Russia. But they do not even have a consensus. There is no definitive proof that Russia, of course, was involved in this election hacking. Now, there was the CIA has changed its tune. And actually, the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee wrote to the director of National Intelligence, James Clapper. He asked why this week's reports by the CIA that Russia did hack Democratic campaign documents contradicts what the agency was saying just 3 weeks ago. Last month, James Clapper said he lacked good insight about the connection between Russian hacking of Democratic emails and their release by WikiLeaks. But now he's saying that indeed the CIA assessment had concluded that Russia had interfered in the race to boost Trump. It didn't have any specific intelligence showing Kremlin involvement, but they've concluded their secret investigation and they did do it. So what is going on here? And then, of course, Reuters is reporting, their exclusive is that the top U.S. spy agency has not embraced the CIA's assessment on Russia hacking. So here we are just having complete confusion, even within these top intelligence agencies. But if you question it, Obama says, you know, we've 17 intelligence agencies agree, and Hillary Clinton said the same thing, that Russians hacked in. But here, this is evidence right here that these intelligence agencies have not embraced this CIA assessment. They're asking for the proof. They're saying, show us definitively where you're seeing these Russian cyber fingerprints on this.
Well, the only proof that we've been given is the WikiLeaks. That's it, is the emails. Here's the emails. Somebody hacked them. That's the only proof we have. And by the way, I have more proof with, I don't know, a handful of activity that people within the DNC might be guilty of, a lot more proof of that than any Russian involvement with these hacks. Mm-hmm. But here's the interesting thing about this. So let's consider the stance that Obama has taken. Let's consider what Obama's reaction is. So now he's saying he wants a full investigation, right? Mm-hmm. So Obama has now launched a full investigation into figuring out how Russia hacked the DNC or where from Russia or who from Russia, whatever it is. They're looking into this investigation. He wants a full investigation into Russia hacking the DNC. But here's what's strange about this. He puts an end date. He puts a date at the end of this, and he says, I need the full investigation results on my desk before I leave office. Now, this says two things to me. One, how can you put an end date on an investigation? If you have an open-ended investigation to try to find out everything you can, it's just that. It's open-ended. We don't know what we're going to find out, and we don't know when. Thus, an open-ended investigation. Obama puts a bookend and says, well, I want you to investigate this until I'm about to leave office. Then close your investigation, put what you find on my desk, and then I'll look into it. That is very strange to me. Mm-hmm. It shows that he's not necessarily concerned over the legitimacy of the investigation, but also what are they going to report they find in this investigation, and then what is his action going to be? If they put that document on his desk that says Russia hacked the United States election, whatever claims they make, what is the response from Obama going to be? Is he going to say, well, we need a re-election? Is he going to say we need to go to war with Russia? And then are they going to try to postpone the inauguration? I mean, I'm just trying to war game it out and figure out what they're trying to do. But that screams to me the fact that he puts a date when he wants the investigation on his desk, and it's the last day he's in office. So what does he plan on doing with that intel? Because they've already lied all the way up to this point. We know what they're going to say. So right now they're planning their next move, and I think it's very scary that the liar-in-chief, Barack Obama, is going to sit here and he's going to make a decision based on a short-ended investigation that's going to reach his desk before he leaves office. I don't trust that for 1 second.
Right, and it doesn't really even matter if there is any definitive proof, because as you can see, all you need to do is turn on any news station that's out there, and it's all about Russia hacking the election. Russia hacked, allegedly, and then they might allegedly or maybe possibly this happened, but that's not what people are hearing. All people are hearing is that this is indeed what happened. That's why Hillary Clinton lost. You know, apparently the Russians were the ones who made her set up that private server and pass all that confidential information via her emails.
And take questions before the debates.
Yeah, get questions passed to her. Absolutely. But this just proves to me that President Obama is shaking in his boots from what Donald Trump is going to find out once he does take office, of exactly what kind of trouble the president has gotten us into in the Middle East. Stick around. We'll be talking about so much more right after this break. Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I am Leanne McAdoo, joined by Owen Schroyer, and we wanted to let you guys know that we have launched the 2016 Christmas Super Sale specials. They are live today. We've got free shipping store-wide on everything that you want to get right now just in time for Christmas. So this is going to be all of these specials that you're hearing. Living Defense, 30% off. Silver Bullet Colloidal Silver is going to be 50% off. Brain Force Plus, 33% off. Winter Sun Vitamin D, 25% off. Survival Shield X2, 30% off, as well as the BioTrue Selenium, 30% off. And again, store-wide free shipping. So this is the time to make those big purchases, any of those larger items that typically are going to add, $20+ to it with the shipping. Store-wide free shipping. Order your stuff today. It's a Christmas super sale. It's a 360 win. Support our operation, and you're going to get super high-quality products. Also make really great Christmas gifts. Excellent stocking stuffers. They're the perfect size. This is my favorite product that we have right now. I probably shouldn't even be telling you about it because I think we've already sold out of this. We literally just got it back in store. But the ozonated olive oil, I use it on my hands and my face and my lips every single day because it keeps me from shape-shifting into my reptilian self. It does. My hands get so scaly and dry. This is it, folks. If you want to go ahead and make a YouTube video about the secret of what stops me from shape-shifting, it is the ozonated olive oil from the INFOWAR store. Get yours today. And like I said, store-wide, free shipping, all 2016 Christmas super sale specials. That has launched. It is now live at InfoWarsLife.com.
I'm telling you, the things that we don't talk about enough for Christmas gifts, though, seriously, great gifts. We have flags at InfoWarsStore.com, a bunch of different flags. I got flags for my friends last year with a hat, coupled them together, a cool hat and a flag. People love it. People love it. So that's something we don't talk about enough. There they are, the flags right there.
Nice.
I got
those hanging up.
I got the Bennington flag for my father and the Moan Labe hat. He put the Bennington flag proudly in his living room, and he still wears the hat. So, telling you, great gifts.
Yeah, and those are nice prices on those things too. So free shipping.
Look at that, $10 on that flag right now.
I know, $10.
Is that a 4.8 review?
I don't know if you could click on it. I don't know what the dimensions are. How big are they?
I don't. What, 3x4 or something?
Yeah.
3x5. Yeah, there you go.
3x5.
Yeah.
There you go. Get yours today, and then of course you can hang them out in front of your home
before they make them illegal.
Exactly. Before the First Amendment is done away with, and if you're in those neighborhoods where your neighbors don't like you hanging that "Don't Tread on Me"
little
flag.
snowflake.
Oh, the first Christmas snowflakes. Well, okay, so just in this, we're in our short segment now. So let's go ahead and talk about this story about Uber employees using data to stalk celebrities, politicians, and even their exes. Now, you'll recall a couple years ago, Uber was assuring everyone they weren't using your information to spy on you. But now, indeed, it has come out that the employees were actually using that data to stalk celebs. And this is where You'll find like TMZ, they're always talking about how they have these ways to get the story while they're always there. They always know where the celebrities are going to be. And here, you're being tracked. The easiest thing you think you're doing is hailing an Uber to take you wherever. But a former employee who is a whistleblower is now coming out saying employees have been misusing the tracking technology that's available to them to spy on anyone. And this is another one of the reasons why I don't like taking Uber by myself. I don't allow them to, Uber or cabs or anyone, frankly. I don't let them pick me up or drop me off at my actual house if I do go with them, because I just don't want them to know that I'm, home and I have a giant pit bull waiting to greet me when I get there.
So is that your strategy? Get dropped off like a block or two,
yes,
like in a different way to try to avoid people knowing?
Yeah.
It's interesting, too, because this was kind of some of the stuff that Snowden alluded to that was going on at Booz Allen, where it's not necessarily Uber. It's not necessarily, the corporation or whoever it is. It's just individuals within who exploit this technology for whatever reason, whether they want to get a story for TMZ, whether they want to spy on a former lover or whatever the case may be. That's the true threat, I think, behind this technology. And, we're progressive for the most part here. I want the new technologies. I want to progress technologically.
You have 10 televisions in your
well, that's to monitor the propaganda. But at the same time, we do need to be aware of backdoors. And, it's something for me. I don't know about yourself, Leanne, but here recently I've been, I'm very, I don't know what the correct word is, not nervous, but I've kind of curtailed my digital activity, the things that I say and that I do on my cell phone, on my computer at home. I'm now conscious of my digital activity, thinking that this is going to be on record permanently somewhere.
Well, absolutely, and everyone should be, because we're all going to be spied on. They even admit 2030, their grand plan for the 2030 agenda is to have even our dreams, our private thoughts will be accessible to them in their God view. Stick around. We've got more news coming right up.
Not in my head.
Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I am Leanne McAdoo, joined by Owen Schroyer, and we are hosting the Overdrive Hour. We've got a lot of news in this long segment, but I want to get back to the story that we touched on in the beginning of the hour about the fact that Bloomberg is basically saying, hey, geoengineering, it does exist. It's not really that safe, but scientists are working on it. So now scientists are working on a new tactic. They want to give the atmosphere an antacid to relieve climate change. So they're also go on to say long-term global average temperatures steadily on the rise, which of course is a lot of people are saying, what the heck are you talking about? They haven't risen at all.
And I like what Trump said. He just goes, you know what? I just don't think anybody knows. That was the statement Trump made.
But now they're working on increasingly desperate solutions to the symptoms of global climate change. One approach to geoengineering the Earth is to mimic the natural atmospheric cooling effect that tends to follow the massive dispersion of sulfur dioxide into the air during a volcanic eruption. So they're wanting to basically release like a pill, an antacid pill, into the sky that would mimic this natural phenomenon. And they say it might indirectly both eat away at the layer of ozone that protects living things from ultraviolet light and warm the lower part of the stratosphere above the tropics. But whatever, let's just go for it.
Isn't
An
it
aerosol
amazing?
of calcium carbonate would have a similar cooling effect as sulfur dioxide on the upper atmosphere and help protect the ozone layer as a bonus.
Isn't this the illustration of exactly everything we're dealing with? Look, hey,
just make it.
We're warning you about anthropogenic climate change. You're a bad guy. We need to have all these regulations. We need to get in control of climate change. But then on the other side, what are they doing? Well, we're in charge of anthropogenic climate change now. We're going to geoengineer the climate. So wait a second. I'm not allowed to have anthropogenic climate change, but the establishment is allowed to operate whatever anthropogenic climate change they want. And they used to do it in secrecy. Now they kind of do it in like faux secrecy.
Well, they still won't admit it because they're admittedly, if you're a foreign government saying, well, what the heck? Why you're actually releasing stuff into the atmosphere,
which is already going on,
which is of course going to move around the globe. It's not like it's going to be localized to your one area. So another country might be really upset that this is going on, and that's kind of the issue here now is that it's unclear what nation or international body would be authorized to release the sulfur dioxide that could have the ill effect of creating acid rain. It's a pollutant, of course. So, you know,
it's man-made climate change.
This is why they need that global governance so that they can go ahead and do this. But meanwhile, they're already doing it, but it doesn't exist. It's not safe, but they're working on making it safer. And so I know it's confusing.
Man-made climate change is the biggest problem to you. Well, we're going to go ahead and start man-made climate change.
Yes.
To save you from man-made climate change.
From yourselves.
I mean, it's just absolutely absurd. I mean, I'm sitting here like shaking my head and you're laughing at my reaction. It's just like, can it get more ridiculous? It really can't.
Well,
oh, wait, it can.
That's why it's kind of refreshing when you see some of Trump's picks, is it's, for instance, he's picking a skeptic to head the EPA and dismantle the climate agenda. So he's putting these people in that are going to do the complete opposite of what the globalists have been working on, and they're just looking at him going, what are you talking about? And that's the thing that really frustrates me, is because I've got you know, some stories here. 18 spectacularly wrong apocalyptic predictions made around the time of the first Earth Day. 25 years of predicting the global warming tipping point. You know, according to Al Gore, we should all be underwater right now. Milk should be $9 a gallon. And so
there's
Trump,
no more oil, petroleum's dried up.
Yeah, Trump, of course, met with Al Gore. And so everyone was going, oh, wow, he's meeting with Al Gore. He secretly met with, who's the actor? I can't think of his name right now.
DiCaprio?
Yes, DiCaprio. So he's meeting with him.
He met with that nit?
So then he flew on his private jet there to go meet with Trump for his 15-minute meeting. But then what does he do after those meetings with these two? He picks a climate skeptic to head EPA. But my point is, so they make all these, there's a global cooling. The Earth is heading into a mini ice age. No, wait, it's global warming. Oh, actually, we don't know what the heck is going on. So let's just call it climate change. Because no one can deny that climate changes.
Right.
And if you do, you're called a climate change denier. That's their little trick. That's their trick, is to say, oh, you deny climate change? Pfft.
This is so genius, in my opinion, of Donald Trump, because he's basically taking an open-minded approach to this. He's hearing all sides of the issue, and then he's coming out and making a statement after talking to all sides of the issue and saying, look, I don't think anybody knows. I don't think anybody can actually say for a fact what is going on with climate change, what anthropogenic climate change impacts really are.
That the CO2 was much higher before humans were even on the Earth. And like all the science classes I took in school were Earth and space science, because I love Earth and space. I almost thought about becoming an astronomer. A little bit too boring for me, but I love it. And the fact is, the Earth is long overdue for another massive purge of whatever is on this planet. It's happened at least 7 times throughout our history, and they do know at least that much based on you know, what they're able to tell with the soils and everything, is that, yeah, there is another cataclysm that is long overdue, but they're trying to control it, or at least in the meantime, pillage us of our tax dollars and control our every single move and tell us that we're the problem. But, you know, this type of cataclysmic events have happened at least 7 times throughout the Earth's history. But they're trying to tell people, and they get it spectacularly wrong, because they say, you know, we're going to be another ice age, and then that doesn't work. So then they say there's going to be global warming, and there's going to be all these massive hurricanes and tsunamis, and then that doesn't happen. We haven't had a major hurricane since, I believe, 2005. Thank God. But, you know, it's just, and so now it's back to this mini ice age.
Well, we're gonna fly around the planet and point our finger at you and say you're responsible for climate change, or you're denying climate change while flying around on a jet, adding to it. But then beyond that, you're also
small countries.
You're also going to have, like, I mean, organized scientific geoengineering going on. They never mention that when they fly around the country and tell you how bad you are for climate change.
Well, at least really open it up for some alternative points of view. Allow the scientists to do their job, to figure out what's going on,
I think
rather
Trump
than
might actually do that.
blacklisting the scientists who disagree with this climate agenda of the globalists.
And whether we agree with it or not, to me it looks like that's at least what Trump is trying to do, hear from all sides of this. But here's the irony to me. Now, this was a story from The Guardian. Earth woefully unprepared for surprise comet or asteroid, NASA scientist warns. So I forget the name of the movie, basically, that this is from, where you know, the asteroid is about to hit
impact?
planet Earth. I don't remember. And, you know, they have to get up there and they have to blow it up so it doesn't. So, but here's what I'm saying. We're all sitting here worried about this climate change, or we're being told we have to worry about climate change. The very people warning us about climate change are flying around the planet on their C-130s and are actually involved with organized scientific geoengineering. But guess what? If an asteroid hit planet Earth, all your little talk about climate change, all your little plans on how to scientifically geoengineer this planet are nothing. Nothing. Zero. Zilch. Nada. If an asteroid hits this planet, the entire climate will change immediately. And you know what? This is the funniest thing that for whatever reason, people cannot wrap their minds around, Leanne. And Alex says this all the time. They think he's crazy. No. The sun controls the climate. This is not difficult to understand. In fact, if the sun goes out, how's your anthropogenic climate change going to be working then? How's your geoengineering going to be working then? Doesn't matter. You're going to be dried up. You're going to be gone. If sunspots on the sun change temperature, the sun's surface temperature is constantly evolving. How far Earth is from the sun and the rotation, it's all constantly changing.
Cycles.
That's how climate, that's the biggest impact of climate change. But they never talk about the sun. They're going to talk about you, little Leanne, when you drive your car to work, and cow farts, and wood fires. And you know, we talked about this off the air a little bit. This kind of gets a little off topic, but as we're talking about space and science and all this stuff, this is from The Sun. Stargazers discover priceless planet which has clouds of rubies and sapphires. A massive planet. Yeah, you'd like that, wouldn't you? You want to go there, don't you, Leanne? Yeah. A massive planet with clouds jam-packed, full of precious rubies and sapphires, has been glimpsed in deep space. So, you know, I don't know too much about this. Is there a planet made of gold that rains rubies and sapphires? I don't know. But you know what? This stuff, to me, this is the next evolution in our humanity. This is the next breakthrough in our, you know, culture, in our society as humans, is breaking through into space, establishing civilizations in space, and finding the answers to the questions that we never thought we would know, finding the answers to what's going on in space. Why is there a planet that rains rubies? Was Mars ever inhabited? Did Mars ever have, you know, water? Could humans live on Mars? Could humans live in other galaxies? Can we ever travel at light speed? This is the stuff I would love to see humans working together to figure out. We have reached this point in our evolution or in our humanity where we can actually work together and find out these things. We can make unbelievable things to travel to places we'd never thought we'd go. And instead, I have to listen to a bunch of fumbling, bumbling buffoons tell me that Russia is hacking the election and that anthropogenic climate change is my biggest issue. So that's what we have to deal with, unfortunately, instead of coming together to expand civilization to the stars. Right. And they want to complain about overpopulation. Well, if we get out to space, you're not going to be complaining then, are you? Of course, you don't need to complain now. That's a total myth.
We don't get to go there. See, I just don't think until humans, we have to stop littering. We have to stop having people go out and kill baby dolphins because they rip it out of the water because they want to take selfies with it. This is what humans would do. They would go to another planet and they would find evidence of life on that planet, and then they would kill it because they had to get some selfies with it.
Well, let's recall though, if you were on Mars and you found a tiny little fungus on Mars, that would be considered life.
Yes.
But if you're, what is it, under a month or 4 months pregnant or whatever it is, that's not considered life though. Amazing how that double standard works, isn't it?
Humans, we are a silly bunch, are we? But let's go to space. We promise we will not mess it up. And I don't want big corporations going out there and taking all the rubies and sapphires off this space planet.
Make NASA great again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, my brother-in-law works for NASA, and he can't wait for a new administration because, yeah, maybe we can finally advance the human race into space if we have a president that supports
and maybe we can have people that, maybe we can have a society of people that know more about John Glenn than Kim Kardashian's butt. Not just Kim Kardashian, just her butt. People know more about her butt than they do about John Glenn. I mean, that is the paradigm that we need to somehow, that is the trance that we need to somehow get out of this country.
Okay, the fact that scientists have figured out how to create Kim Kardashian's butt and give people that kind of a butt rather than getting us out into space. That's the problem we have.
Can Kim Kardashian's butt actually double as a projectile to get us to space? That's what I want to know.
A launching pad for the spaceships.
There you go.
To be able to get into outer space easier.
And also
quicker.
a landing pad
With
when
less
you land back
resistance.
into the atmosphere.
I like it. That's an idea. Something to think about. Speaking of Kim
Finally,
Kardashian.
Kim Kardashian's useful.
That is an excellent segue to the fact that Kanye West visited Donald Trump today, and people were they were shocked, totally flabbergasted. What kind of an effect do you think this is going to have on the culture with the young people seeing Kanye West there with Donald Trump? Now, of course, they've tried to throw him under the bus immediately when he came out saying, you know, I didn't vote, but if I had voted, I would have voted for Donald Trump. And they were like, nope, sorry, whoop, we're taking you to the mental hospital. You're having a mental breakdown. But here he is. I don't know if you guys have the video of him. I think it's going to play at the end, but they give each other the high five, you know, as they're leaving. And it's like there's no way Hillary Clinton ever would have been able to manage that kind of a high five on a way out. He tells him,
it's coming up right here.
He tells him to, take care of yourself, buddy. And
here's the epic handshake.
Oh, here we go.
Boom, hits it. He went in for the handshake, and then at the last moment, he had to adjust into the palm going up. Wow,
yes,
what an adjustment by Donald.
And the little chest bump bro hug thing.
He got some dap and pound from Kanye West at Trump Tower today.
Hillary Clinton would never. That's why Donald Trump is your president.
It is wild though, this whole Kanye West deal. People are alleging in the hip hop industry that the entire Kanye West breakdown was nothing more than a hoax in order to garner more attention to himself. Certainly something you wouldn't put past Kanye. But if we do believe that Donald is genuine, we have to take something from this meeting with Kanye. He says he's friends with Kanye West. Obviously, Kanye was locked up or put into a mental institution for trumping while black.
Yeah.
So it's nice to see he's able to get out and then go meet with Donald.
It's also nice to see him pushing back against, you have all these celebrities who are like, I'm not playing at your inauguration. Take that, Donald Trump. And then here you have Kanye West, who's massively influential, love him or hate him. And he said, you know what, screw you, I'm going to go meet with the president.
What if you got Kanye West and Taylor Swift to perform together at the Trump inauguration? That would be beyond epic.
That would be just the president that would be bringing people together rather than the great divider in chief that we have right now. Speaking of President Obama, let's talk about the fact that he came out telling Donald Trump, that he would be without his intel briefings, he would be flying blind, and basically making fun of Donald Trump because he skipped one of these intelligence briefings. Mind you, he's not even the president yet, but the media was running with that. Oh, he's already skipping his intelligence briefing.
And they said they want to give him fake briefings, too.
This is a president who has skipped more than half of his daily intelligence briefings, saying that Donald Trump is going to be flying blind without the intel. But you'll recall, let's just take a little walk back through recent history. President Obama continually uses the excuse that he finds out about world events like Hillary Clinton's use of a private email server, Fast and Furious, 7 other times. Here, he says he finds out about these world events by watching the news. So he didn't even find out about this stuff in his intelligence briefings that he continued to skip. He found out about it, he alleges, I found out about it the same time everybody else did by watching the news. So he found out about Fast and Furious by the news, the NSA spying on foreign leaders, the General David Petraeus sex scandal, the IRS's targeting of conservative groups, the Justice Department's wiretapping of AP and Fox News reporters, the Department of Veterans Affairs healthcare waiting list scandal, the unauthorized Air Force One photo op, and like I mentioned, Hillary Clinton's use of a private email server while she was Secretary of State. So what the heck? And of course we know it's total BS, but he finds this all out at the same time we did by watching the fake news.
Well, and again, I guess this is Obama admitting he's been flying blind because he doesn't attend his intelligence briefings. But this is how it went. Obama wakes up in the morning. He's on the phone with his buddy. He's like, what time's that tea time? Okay. And then
he's like, it's just a daily intelligence briefing. I'll look at it on my iPad.
And then the people who are supposed to get the intel briefing to him, they say, wait, excuse me, Mr. President, we've got an intelligence briefing in 30 minutes. Well, can't we do that on the golf course? No, sir, this is highly classified.
I'll check it out on my iPad.
We'll do it later. I'll watch the news. I trust CNN. I'll watch the news.
Yeah, it's just a complete and total joke. And, briefly, we'll get back to all the stuff he said was fairly routine that caused the election to go in Trump's favor. are listening to the Alex Jones Show. I am Leanne McAdoo with Owen Schroyer, and during the break, Owen was remarking about my lovely teeth, and I've got to say, I'm the lucky recipient of the new Super Blue fluoride-free toothpaste. That's one thing I love about working here is we get to test drive all of the new products. But one thing about this is not just that it is a non-fluoride formula. It also includes iodine and nano silver, which helps fight harmful bacteria in your mouth that supports oral health. So if you have this harmful bacteria, it can infect your gums, it could enter your bloodstream, attach to your heart blood vessels, and that is what causes blood clots or heart attacks. A lot of people don't realize how important your oral health is for even your heart health, your overall health, because it gets into your bloodstream and can cause a heart attack. So that's why we have done a lot of research there to add this iodine and nano silver into the Super Blue fluoride-free toothpaste to help the state of your oral health. It's integral to your overall health. And it contains also natural oils and ingredients used since biblical times to help wipe out the bad bacteria and eliminate bad breath without the IQ-reducing fluoride. It has xylitol, peppermint oil, iodine, nano silver, and more. So you can learn more about this new product. You know, a lot of people out there, they want to use a non-fluoride formula. So you know what? Alex Jones, he's a brilliant man. He said, let's carry it at the store. So you can learn more about this Super Blue formula, read all about the research. We've taken years to develop this toothpaste using these key ingredients. You can find all of that information at InfoWarsLife.com. And don't forget, right now, store-wide free shipping. We are having the 2016 Christmas Super Sale specials right now at InfoWars. So if you want to try out the new Super Blue fluoride-free toothpaste, this is a great opportunity to do it. And like I said, go get some stocking stuffers for your family with the Christmas special.
Since biblical times.
Yes.
The same, that was the stuff that Jesus was probably using.
Well, that's the thing. People
that's how he got such that
peppermint oil, tea tree oil. These are things that, you know, they're all natural ingredients that, by the way, of course, Big Pharma and their ilk, the Texas Medical Board, for instance, wants to do away with people being able to access this type of natural supplements. They want to have control over what type of natural remedies people are able to get their hands on, which is insane.
Yeah, it'll all be state issued sometime.
Right.
Yeah.
They want to cut out your brain, your child's brain, rather than allowing you to try cannabis oil for your child's
friendly brain surgery.
Yeah, just a little friendly lobotomy. That's much better than going with the natural cannabis oil.
This is the Obama
been used since biblical times. Thank you.
Hey, you know, speaking of Obama, and we're about to close off this broadcast, what do you think about this? Obama is ripping people who are obsessing over the content of the hacked emails instead of who did the hacking. Now,
well,
why?
He says nothing explosive was found there. Nothing
explosive.
Nothing routine.
Folks, again, I said this earlier. There is more proof in these emails over dozens of alleged activities between the people in the DNC, much more proof than you have that Russia actually rigged anything or did the hacking at all. Again, more proof exists in the content of the emails than the fraudulent charge that Russia is guilty for the hack, with no proof at all. And again, why is Obama not saying to look at the content, but instead who hacked it? Total false flag,
total false narrative. He wants everyone to look away. But how ironic is it that he goes on a fake news show and talks to a fake journalist, Trevor Noah, to put out this thing, and he's like, you know, really, there's nothing that... It was fairly routine stuff. Well, if it was fairly routine stuff, then what impact could it possibly have had on our elections? So at the same time, they're wanting to put out this message. It was so devastating, but it was just routine. Don't go look at it.
And they're not fake emails. They don't deny the content's real.
We're going to be talking about this on the InfoWars Nightly News tonight. Check us out. We'll be going live at 7 p.m. Central, and I will be your host there as well.